the correct link. Let's see. We know that Jim is not going to be on this meeting and that Nicole has to be audio only at 3:30. So let's see here. Okay, well, I'm going to officially start here shortly. So
Okay.
if you want to just finish eating. Oh, and there's Raphael. So I'm going to go ahead and start.
Okay, I'll be here too.
So I'm waving at people. Okay. Okay, ready to go here in the chambers? And I'm waving like Tony does to start the meeting. Although Tony seems to be more effective at getting it going than I am, because it is 1 o'clock.
Might have something to do with that gavel thing,
Okay, I think we've got the chambers now. Let's see here. Okay, are we ready to go in the chambers? We're not hearing anything from the chambers. I can hear the commissioners, Deputy County Manager Francois, I believe you're on. Can you unmute yourself so that I know that you can hear us? Oh, she's shaking her head yes. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're just waiting for the chambers again. All right. Oh, again. They're working on the sound. Maybe we have it now?
Can you hear us now?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right.
Excellent.
Then I will go ahead and call the Budget Committee of the Whole to order for the afternoon deliberations on the budget, the 2021 budget. So I will begin this with the opening that I gave this morning and that I give before each of the hearings, so that those that are tuning in, especially for the first time, will know what we are doing here. So we as a board approved a budget for 2021 on December 17th, 2019 as part of the 2020-2021 biennial budget. At that time, the 2021 budget called for a spending increase of $21.4 million over 2020 and a 4.5% property tax increase. Typically, during the second year of the biennial budget, the county board affirms the budget approved from the previous year and focuses the second year on performance measures and progress made towards the county goals adopted by this board. However, as we all know, this is not a typical year. So given the pandemic and the significant economic downturn and civil unrest, all of which have impacted our community, we needed to take a new look at the 2021 budget. The proposed supplemental 2021 budget calls for a spending increase of $5.8 million over 2020 and holds the levy change at 0.0% between 2020 and 2021. Again, a lot of work has gone in to have a 0.0% levy change between the 2 years. On August 25th, 2020, the county manager recommended a 2021 supplemental budget to the Ramsey County Board through a lot of work. Meetings with the service teams on the supplemental budget changes and performance measures started on September 1st and go through September 10th. If people are interested in seeing the schedule, they can go to online to www.ramseycounty.us/budget. As we go through the hearing today, the Deputy County Manager of the service team will provide an overview of the service team, the 2021 impacts of the proposed budget, service delivery, and an update on its strategic priorities, which is an important part of what we are doing. The controller will follow the major changes in the proposed budget, and each department director will present their performance measures and speak to any specific departmental budget impacts on service delivery. After each presentation, I will open the floor for any questions from county board members. On Thursday, September 10th, a week from today, we will have the first public hearing on the 2021 budget. That meeting will be held at 10:30 a.m. in the council chambers with commissioners appearing virtually via Zoom. We acknowledge that the pandemic limits in-person opportunities, so we will be making accommodations to the extent possible for residents to provide comments through electronic or non-contact means. If you would like to speak to the board, you can call the chief clerk at 651-266-8014. Email comments to her at chiefclerk, one word, at co.ramsey.mn.us, or you can sign up in person at the meeting and you'll be given an opportunity to make a statement. On September 15th, the board will set the 2021 maximum property tax levy. The second public hearing will be held on November 30th at 6:30 p.m. at a location still to be determined. Given the pandemic, we are currently looking at various facility and technology options to conduct this public hearing in person as well as virtually. On December 1st, the Budget Committee will discuss changes to the 2021 budget if there are any that are requested by the board members. If not, we will not have a meeting on December 1st. On December 15th, the County Board will give final approval to the 2021 budget, including any changes approved by the committee, and set the final 2021 property tax levy. I'd like to say thank you to Vice Chair of the Budget Committee, Commissioner Modest Castillo, the County Manager, Ryan O'Connor, our CFO, Alex Kutza, and all the staff involved. Again, making the changes in a time when we have increased needs was especially difficult, and as we have gone through the budget so far, we see exactly how they have done so while maintaining the critical needs and service provision, and in fact advancing some of those things within the pandemic and getting through the pandemic, and of course the social unrest or civil unrest. So I want to point out also to those that are listening that we are very proud of the open data portal that is available through the Ramsey County website, because you can dig into every detail of what we do, this budget, and things that are happening throughout the county. The open data portal is really an incredible tool that can be used. So this afternoon, we will be hearing from the Information and Public Records Service Team. And we will begin with Deputy County Manager Karen Francois giving a service team overview. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, good afternoon. I am pleased to be here, at least virtually today, to present the Information and Public Records Service Team 2021 budget adjustments that reflect the impact the pandemic has had on our operations and will have on our operations and service delivery, as well as to present to you our outcome-based performance metrics. The IPR service team levy, in order to help the county get to a 0% levy increase, was reduced by $657,000. Our controller, Tracy West, will speak in more detail about how we are able to absorb this reduction, as well as other budgetary pressures that we face. But first, I would like to recognize and honor the work that Tracy has done bringing our team through the total budget process and specifically helping us to figure out how we will be able to absorb the reduction in levy. Our team consists of the IPR department leaders who each one will present our performance measures this afternoon. And the team also consists of our performance management action team members. So I would like to call out Christine Brill, who I see is there in chambers today at the table, at the desk. She is the chair of the PMAT team. Corey Erickson, Daryl Dean, Kasam Yang, Chris Samuel, Richard Hicks, Don Siegling, and we've received a lot of support and help from Jolie Wood. So I want to thank this entire team, as well as our CFO, Alex Kutza, and her team. Between all of these folks and many more, they've put in a lot of hard work and many hours to ensure that we'll be able to continue to serve the people of Ramsey County effectively and efficiently with excellence and to the best of our ability, keeping our residents and our staff safe and healthy in spite of any budgetary constraints. As we all know, COVID has dramatically changed the way we operate and deliver services to our residents. IPR has adapted and within the service team and also across service teams. And so I'm going to highlight a few of the ways that we have adapted. I think most of you have heard me say, and other team members in IPR, that IPR, we are IPR, the heartbeat of Ramsey County. That's our brand. We don't have spirit animals. I was watching earlier and there was robust conversation about spirit animals. But if we did, I'm sure that
I should point out that we are no longer using the word spirit animal, but Patronus. And if I said that wrong, yes.
Okay.
So
Patronus.
we had a Patronus Energizer Bunny earlier today. So in case you missed that.
You know what? I did hear that, but I forgot the word. So I'm glad you reminded me. Thank you.
Thank you.
I remember Commissioner Fretham brought that up.
Yes.
Anyway, our Patronus would be fierce if we had one. And if anyone thinks of one while we're here today, please feel free. So why do we believe in IPR that we're the heartbeat of the county? Well, it's because IPR has critical countywide impact on not only internal operations, but also external service delivery as well. And we have adapted to ensure a residents first focus, as well as a focus on customer and staff safety and health during the pandemic. From assessing property values to property tax and revenue collection by our unified team within IPR administration, we provide at least 40% of the county's budget. New realities posed by COVID-19 became a driving force to accelerate development of automated processing, including acceptance of credit card payments. We've also adapted in this area by implementing electronic property inspections. And as you all know, we have accommodated residents impacted by the pandemic by extending the deadlines for property tax payments. Our internal and external communications and advocacy for our legislative platform all serve to help keep us informed, thus safe and secure during the new normal we exist in today. CPR, as our CPR director always says, providing CPR, that helps keeping the heartbeat going. CPR has done a phenomenal job of keeping our residents apprised of the many county resources available through our partners across service teams, including the Racial Equity and Community Engagement Response Team, Community and Economic Development, Workforce Solutions, as well as Social Services, Public Health, and Financial Assistance Services, and all of those services that help our residents put food on their tables, pay their mortgages and rent, pay their employees, and the many other services available that help our residents and businesses get through the pandemic and the civil unrest in our community. IS, our information and information services, is the great enabler. This team has done the remarkable and challenging job taking us quickly with great effort to remote operating capability. And they continue to look ahead to innovative solutions that will make us as resilient as possible in an uncertain future. The Enterprise Project Management Office has adapted, yet continues to provide necessary project and program management, organizational change management, and continuous improvement. And I'm sure that all of you will agree that in this day and age, and with all of the changes that we have had to adapt to, that organizational change management is very necessary right now. And last but certainly not least, in IPR, we are responsible for safe and secure, fair and just, transparent, open, and accessible elections in Ramsey County. And we all know just how important that is in our current political environment. The elections team has also done a remarkable job of adapting to the massive move to voting by mail and the public health requirements that keep our voters, our election judges and staff safe and healthy. Madam Chair, if it's okay with you, I'll turn it over to our controller, Tracy West, who will discuss the major changes to our budget.
Thank you. And the major changes, first of all, welcome to Tracy, and are found on page 105 of our budget book.
Madam Chair.
Tracy, are you there?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name is...
Okay.
Sorry. Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name is Tracy West, Controller of the Information and Public Records Service Team. Today, I will highlight major changes in the 2021 budget. I will walk through the detail that gets us from the approved 2021 budget to the 2021 supplemental budget as recommended to gain a better understanding of the delta. The Information and Public Records 2021 approved budget is $65.3 million. The 2021 budget as recommended is $62.7 million. This is a $2.6 million reduction in budget and a 13.8% reduction in levy. To manage the 13.8% reduction in levy, Information and Public Records Service Team is proposing the following reductions. A $2 million reduction in technology appropriations. This would have been a $2 million increase from 2020, but the 2021 budget as recommended will remain at $2.8 million, keeping the budget flat year over year. This funding is used towards implementation, maintenance, enhancements, upgrades, and replacements of business application systems to meet current and emerging business needs of the county. The remaining levy reduction of $657,000 will come from holding 7 positions vacant. These positions will come from the Office of Administration, elections, and the county assessor's office. There is no doubt 2021 will be a challenging year as financial pressures and service delivery changes related to COVID-19 start to become the new normal and operationalize. But the Information and Public Records Service Team's 2021 budget demonstrates the ongoing leadership and progress that is being made to ensure that Ramsey County is a county of excellence, working to enhance our quality of life through our goals of well-being, prosperity, opportunity, and accountability. Thank you. With that, I'll stand for questions.
Are there any questions for Tracy? I'm not seeing any at this point. Okay, so we will move on then to IPR administration. Tara Bach is the director. This can be found on the budget can be found on pages 107 to 112. And I hope I pronounced your first name correctly, since there's a few ways to pronounce T-A-R-A.
You did, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Tara Bach. I'm the Director of the Information and Public Records Administration Division. We are a service-focused division with both internal and external customers. I'm excited to be here today to talk about some of the service delivery changes we have made in IPR administration due to COVID-19, and also to highlight a performance measure that's extremely important not only to my team, but to the residents as well. Service delivery is one of our main focuses, and COVID has impacted our division in a number of ways. Back in March, we closed access to the service center in the Plato building. We continued to provide some limited walk-up services, but really encouraged our residents to use the drop boxes, mail, or the website to work with the county. We found this to be very effective, and we heard from residents that they appreciated the options. But we also made the decision to discontinue offering passport services and access to the property research room, which can get crowded at times and used mostly by title companies and individuals researching property records. Residents have been referred to the National Passport Center webpage to find other locations. With the closing of the property research room, we followed the direction of other metro counties in eliminating the subscription and access fees to the county recordee's website. This is the website that provides online access to recorded documents. We have been able to successfully provide the needed services by phone and email, and do not intend to reopen the property research room or reinstate the recordee's fees at this time. IPR administration has been collaborating with the incident management team and the planning committee on the countywide approach to service delivery. The Plato building is one of the current walk-up sites. We're excited to expand the services available at the Plato building. The newly formed Unified Service Delivery Team, which includes the navigators, will be transitioned to IPR administration over the next several months. You may recall that we had started a customer experience project a couple of years ago in IPR, which resulted in the formation of the IPR Unified Team. It was the feedback we received from our residents that we decided to realign our organization to combine the areas of tax, recording, and assessing services. Our customers were hearing things like, "I need to transfer your call," "I need to have someone call you back," or "you will need to go to a different counter for that service." They were basically telling us they wanted one door. We wanted to be able to perform resident and business-focused service efficiently and effectively for our community, a true residents-first focus. So while this has been a more focused transformation, we will use the knowledge and the tools from this process as we improve the service delivery across the organization with the Unified Service Delivery Team. And this brings me to the performance measure that I want to highlight today for you today is our customer experience rating found on page 110. There are several initiatives in progress to help improve our level of service. We've done a tremendous amount of organizational change management work for the Unified Team. This work was critical in laying the foundation for a successful unified team. It has been a long road, but we're seeing the payoff in employees' performance and attitude towards their work. We've been developing training, providing mentoring and coaching, while continually cross-training employees across the various functions. With the help of our capability team, we are about to implement a tool so we can finally begin gathering real data about the types of interactions that we are having with our residents. Customer service training will be finalized and provided to our staff this fall and will be available countywide in the near future. Unfortunately, much of this work was put on hold back in March, but we've been back working on the plan again over the past month or so. We started measuring the customer experience level in 2018, the beginning of our customer experience project, and we are beginning to see our service rating trending upwards. Starting in 2019, and now especially in 2020, because we've been spending a lot of time on cross-training, we are now able to more easily shift staff to certain functions during high-volume peaks, such as tax collections and helping elections. Again, we're seeing a number of employees' performances improve, and we're hearing they enjoy getting more variety in their daily work. As we roll out additional training and have the ability to gather better metrics, I believe we will continue to see improvements. I'm excited about the ability to expand the available services at Plato with the service delivery changes that were implemented in August, including a navigator inside the front door and having a financial services employee working at one of our service desks. As I mentioned earlier, we heard from our residents that they don't want to be shuffled from one building to another or one service desk to another. We want our employees to be able to handle multiple questions or transactions in an atmosphere that welcomes all our residents. We continue to work towards a first stop resolution for our customers. I think we will continue to see this improve with ongoing training and the expansion of available services at the Plato building. While we continue to work to improve our internal operations, we also want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our residents by advancing racial equity. One of IPR administration's focuses for the next year will be working with HR and the DIOD to develop broader cultural awareness for my team. My hope is to create a plan with multiple opportunities for not only my team, but for our entire service team. Over the past year, we have focused on building a dynamic and diverse workforce that better represents the residents we serve. Even with some of our vacancies that were put on hold, 60% of our new hires over the past year are people who identify as people of color. When you look at the open data portal, you'll see that we originally started with tracking our services separately for tax recording and assessing services from election services. But as the unified team has become more dynamic and doing additional collaboration with elections, we'll be working to combine the two separate measures on the open data portal together as one. So I would like to thank my team for their continued dedication to putting residents first by continually working towards providing effective, efficient, and accessible operations. They are a dedicated and creative group of individuals that are service-minded, always considering the impact to our residents. And thanks to all of you for your continued support. And with that, I will take any questions.
Are there any questions from commissioners? I guess I do have one as far as the performance measures and performance measure and the transition to having elections in with property records. That seems like it might be a little difficult. So how do you see that happening?
So I think, what we're talking about is residents who are calling, asking questions, or they are coming into the Plato building for some type of services. And so we are asking them how their experience was. We're not specific, we do tend to get feedback on their property taxes, but we're asking them, how was their experience? That's really what we're trying to get at, or how can we improve their experience? So we think that that actually fits across, because we're going to have the same people helping, whether it's tax collection or with elections and servicing people coming in into elections. So So it's about the types of questions that we're asking about their experience.
Okay, and I do see that I have a couple of commissioners here that have questions, but right now as I'm looking or thinking about the configuration that it has right now, where you've got property records and elections that are in separate areas, connected but in separate areas. And I get the fact that you can clearly rate the experience regardless of which area they come into, and so I'm just trying to wrap my head around that.
Okay.
So even though they're in separate areas, you're going to have staff that'll go between them, or how will that work?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, yes, and that was really part of the kind of some of the ideas behind creating this unified team, is that they would be able to provide services across multiple areas. We did start with tax recording and assessing, but they have been expanding to the point to be able to assist with elections as well, regardless of which service counter people may be coming to.
That's impressive. Okay, Commissioner Modis Castillo and then McGuire.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to just say thank you for your awesome customer service. As a demonstration, I went in last year to file my homestead and was the first person who was available. Above them said passports, and they said, come over here, I can help you. And I said, well, I'm here to homestead. And they said, any one of us can help you with anything you need. And so I tried it, and they didn't know who I was. So it wasn't just because I was a commissioner. It was clear this employee didn't recognize me. And so it was really great customer service. I repeatedly hear from constituents who say that they are so happy. The county is very helpful. You know, assessments just went out in the mail and people received them. And I've already been told that many have, tried to make phone calls to the city and then they immediately defer and call the county because we answer the phone and get back to them quickly. So I just want to say great job, great work. And yes, indeed, you are the heartbeat, that quiet department that is making sure we're all running smoothly. And so thank you for your great work.
Thank you.
Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Tara, for and your whole department, everybody, for all of their work. I'm going to just first of all notice that because I called this out previously on the workforce diversity, that your estimate numbers of workforce as a percentage of the diverse county population is up there where we want it, is increasing at 80%. So thank you for that and for having that diverse workforce, knowing that there's different measurements for all these things. I have a question, and I'm so appreciative of your unified team and your capability team. If you could just expand a little bit about the unified team. Is that the team that's just within the service area, or is there I feel like there's a unified team that's countywide as well. Could you talk a little bit about maybe your unified team versus a unified team that's countywide? Because we, of course, want there to be one door, whether it's a health and human services request or a property tax. I mean, we want people to be, as with our navigators, we want them to be multifunctional. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Madam Chair, Commissioner. So the unified team in IPR was actually formed about a year and a half ago, nearly 2 years ago. And that was really just the combination of the different, very distinct areas for property tax, document recording, and assessing services. And we brought that together, really trying to align those services very specifically. And that is work that has been going on for nearly 2 years, kind of bringing them together as one unit as opposed to 3 distinct units. But you are correct. Now the new unified service delivery is the term I know being used county-wide for developing and setting up services in multiple locations across the county at various walk-up sites where you can get multiple services, including our property tax services, but it's expanding to those workforce services, financial services. So yeah, the terminology can be a little confusing. Because we started with Unified Team a couple of years ago, but now it's, they're really going to just become a subset of the Unified Service Delivery.
I really appreciate that expansion and clarification, because I love being unified. So I'm just wanted to see what we were all unifying, and I'm glad to hear that the unified teams are unifying. So that's good.
Commissioner, Madam Chair, would you mind if I added something to that?
Go ahead. Thank you.
So that would be that unified service delivery team that is being transitioned to being led out of the Information and Public Records Service team, specifically out of Tara's division, will include services like workforce solution type services, will include social services, public health services, financial assistance services, and it will be the team where the navigators are going to be, and that work is being transitioned from the IMT structure into IPR as we speak. Commissioner, our County Manager O'Connor mentioned to me that he had spoken briefly with you all about that, but officially that work is going on right now to be transitioned into IPR admin.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I just wanted to hear it out loud again. And so, yes, we're grateful for that, and we appreciate that movement that is happening. So thank you.
Are there any other questions from commissioners? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to do the overview. Obviously, the unified team and transitioning to, I mean, it's a great start to be able to bring, as you said, very distinct services under one unified team, and really looking forward to more information, not just out of IPR admin, obviously, but about the unified service delivery model that we're doing county-wide. And I'm sure that will be phased in so that we can make sure that we can measure the results there as well. Okay, the next item then, first of all, Tara, did you have anything else to say? I should have.
I'm good, thank you.
Here. Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have the County Assessor. Luis Rosario is the Director. The budget can be found on pages 113 through 118. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today about the 2021 budget and performance measurements. My name is Luis Rosario, the Ramsey County Assessor. My plan this afternoon is to provide a brief overview of the County Assessor's Department, which begins on 113, highlights some of the service delivery impacts, as well as one of our performance measurements. The County Assessor Department estimates market value and determines property classification for property tax purposes. The department must provide accurate and equitable valuations and classification for all real and taxable personal property located in Ramsey County every assessment year. The department uses a computerized mass appraisal system which assists in valuing properties. We strive to serve our residents competently, quickly, efficiently, and fairly, and we maintain an accurate electronic parcel data map and records. Our office will defend appeals if an assessment is necessary, but we also are willing to make adjustments when it's ever warranted. When COVID-19 hit, the Valley notices were mailed out in March. The Assessor Department had to quickly set up a new service delivery process to do appeals remotely, utilizing technology such as the high-resolution street-level photography combined with aerial imagery. We worked with property owners who appealed their properties, who had them mail us interior photos or videos, or we walked through the property virtually with the appraisers on their phone. So we were nimble, innovative, and we got the work done to get the appeal completed. We conducted our 2-day open book meeting virtually using the appraisers and the unified team to answer our phones. The Special Board of Appeals and Equalization meeting was also done virtually, with the Plato building conference room being available for the public meeting requirements. We changed our tax petition services from an in-person to an electronic process. So we were able to combine the services from the county attorney, the auditor, and the assessor's department into one acknowledgement with an electronic signature, and this delegation was given to us by the county attorney. We changed our processes for split classes and combinations and new plats. So we're currently working on our quintile review, which is the statutory requirement of reviewing 1/5 of the county's properties. That's approximately 30,000 parcels. This year, all quintile is being done remotely via desktop review, utilizing, again, the aerial imagery and the street level photography. We're meeting statutory requirements and DOR requirements using the IAAO standards. This fall, we will have service deliveries from new construction as well and picking up permits. This will be, we will pick them up doing only exterior reviews. I think it's important for us to still go out in the field and make sure that the work is being done, because we're in an economic downturn. Some property owners may not start the work because they've been laid off, or some developers may decide to delay it. So we're just going to do exteriors, and hopefully we'll ask the owners again to give us photos of any interior parts of the remodel or any interior reviews. Can we switch over to the performance measurements? So the performance measurement I would like to highlight is the interns identifying as racially and ethnically diverse or American Indians hired into a full-time assessing job, really focusing on the opportunity to hire staff that reflects the community we serve, and partnering with local colleges such as Metro State, and the Assessors Department offers internships to local students. The internships has led to the start of really many successful careers in property assessment field, thereby greatly improving the pool of diverse qualified applicants in assessing jobs. The Ramsey County Assessor's Office is one of the most diverse offices in the state of Minnesota, and that's really because of our internship program. And so looking at the stats of employed by race and ethnicity, I just wanted to show you that my office is 73% white, 14% Asian, and 2 of the employees who identified as Asian came from our internship program. We're 8% Black, and 1 of the employees who identified themselves as Black came from our internship program, and 6% Hispanic, and 1 of our employees who identified themselves as Hispanic came from our internship program. And all our interns are bilingual, by the way, so it's really an excellent measurement. My department, as well as other assessors' offices throughout the metro, have benefited from hiring our interns, which provide an excellent pool of well-trained entry-level appraisers. One other note, the PPL intern that we had in my office last year was just hired by the city of Minneapolis. So I also want to point out that the County Assessor report was published this year on the Open Data Portal for the first time. Special thanks to Communications and Christine Grill for the work to help get this on the portal. The Assessor's report holds an incredible amount of data about all our properties in Ramsey County. Assessor's report is an accountability measure. We strive toward a high-quality tax assessment for all residents in Ramsey County. Doing so helps to ensure that all property owners pay an equitable and fair tax. The primary measure of success in this regard is our sales ratio study, which indicates that our 2020 assessment is within 90 and 105% of our 2019 sales. This again is very important as it means our assessment meets DOR and statutory requirements. An accurate and equitable valuation builds trust and strengthens confidence in the responsible use of our taxpayers' dollars. The assessor's work is very statute-driven. Clearly, top priority is providing accurate and equitable valuation and classification of all property. But as important is doing the work in a manner that we foster and maintain an open, trusting, professional relationship with our taxpayers we serve, and also putting residents first, advancing racial equity, and having meaningful engagement with community, and continue working for opportunities and diversity. I want to thank my staff. It's been a challenging 2020, and they've really stepped up to the plate to get the work done. Special thanks to Corey Erickson, who represented the Assessors Department and the PMAT team. Finally, I want to thank you, commissioners, for giving me the opportunity to serve as your county assessor and allowing me to give you this update today. I stand for questions.
Okay, Commissioner Matas Castillo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's really exciting that the budget presentation can really be a celebration of the great work in the assessor's office. I mean, so often, people don't think about it unless they have a complaint, but I really want us to pull out that success of your internship program. And this really goes with not only with our countywide goals, but also with our EDCI goals around racial equity and wealth building and equity, and the work we've done with Fourth Economy and the Center for Economic Inclusion, because we know that people's wealth is often holed up in their property. But historically, people of color as homeowners, their properties aren't valued the same. And so having assessors who are from the community doing that assessment really moves our work forward. And so this is an area that I think we should pause and really celebrate. And thank you, Luis, for your leadership in this and making sure that we're moving forward, because I know that it is a county goal, but you are implementing it and you're doing it from your heart. And so I just really want to thank you, because this is how we change things in our county, is by making sure that every part of it looks and feels the same and equity comes into play. So thank you so much for leading with heart and passion and for moving us forward in this direction.
Thank you.
Well said, Commissioner Matas Castillo. Okay, and next we have Commissioner Carter and then Commissioner McGuire.
Well said, Commissioner Matas Castillo. I really appreciate your having emphasized, as you did, the first performance measure. And so I don't have to do that, but I will say thank you for the example that you have set in that regard. And I know that this work was begun. I believe it was begun just prior to your coming in terms of the internships being brought in. You have elevated it so tremendously, and it is an example for our entire county. Secondly, I want to celebrate also the two measures that follow. You are really on track to ensure that we are in our compliance measures focused, and you have improved in that area for 2019, for 2020 as well, and projecting to be 100%. That's a great percentage. And we appreciate that work. And secondly, or thirdly, the percentage of staff with high certification levels. It is important that you continue to focus on the excellence of our staff and the high level of capacity in your department, so as to ensure your ability for compliance and for accuracy and excellence, as well as to ensure we are rounding out the staff with the people that we need, including the diversity of those folks. So again, thank you so much. I do not have a question, just fully appreciate your ongoing progress in this area.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Director Rosario, and your staff for all their good work. Could you just talk a little bit about, the challenge that we know is there about doing in-person assessments? We know that it's hard to go to those locations and do it personally, so we're doing it more remotely. And so much of the work that we're doing now during this uncertain time, we're assessing whether it's something we'll continue to do because it's, you know, more helpful for the county and the residents, and some things we're not going to continue to do. So, but I'm guessing that you have to ramp up technology to actually do the assessments now. And will this be technology that you'll continue to use, or are we able to ramp up technology in a way that it will be sustainable, or are you planning that you'll go back to in-person as much as usual when we are able to do that? If you could just talk about that whole issue of in-person assessments versus virtual.
Sure. Madam Chair, Commissioner, I don't see an assessment being done 100% without going out in the field.
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, making sure that the new construction and permits are picked up. As far as technology go, it's improving every year. We're seeing drone technology coming in where they're flying in the behind the property. So technology is just going to get better and better as the years go on to help with the assessment of properties.
Okay, thank you for that. I just wanted to hear a little bit more about that. So thank you for that. My last question is, if you could talk a little more, and I know you've mentioned this or when we were hearing about the budget, in your organizational chart 2021, there's three FTEs for assessing services versus the 5, and we've asked everyone to cut back. And I know if you could just, I mean, you're all doing assessing, so just comment a little bit on that reduction in services and how you're handling that. I know we've asked you to cut back on things, so if you could just comment a little bit more on that.
So, Madam Chair, Commissioner, we actually had 2 FTEs in the assessor's office that were cut back. One was a principal appraiser, and one was a GIS tech. And you know, and quite frankly, that could be really challenging on the appraiser side with if in this economic downturn as appeals go up, we know, and they ramp up higher, we may need that more help. So it's going to be challenging, but we're going to work through it and work as a team to get it done.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for all your efforts. I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And unless I hear otherwise, I will assume that Commissioner Carter's hand is from before, as well as, and Mary Jo will lower her hand right now. There we go. Okay. I have a question when you mentioned GIS. Is there, we have GIS obviously that does a lot, well, throughout our county, not just in one or more departments, but I know through Public Works, there's a lot of activity because of street center lines and all the things that they need to have for mapping. Is that work unified throughout the county, through all service teams?
Yeah, so we, Madam Chair, Commissioners, we work with the other GIS folks, but what our office does is we're kind of the keepers of the maps, and we update any new plats or any new divisions that come in, and they're added to the fabric map. So we are kind of the keepers to make sure that everything is updated, and it's updated in our tax system as well. So that's the part that the assessor's office does. Well,
at one point, although it was many, many years ago, they had 2 separate systems. So, but thank goodness we changed that. It didn't really work very well.
Yeah.
I was impressed also with the way you're dealing with the quintile requirement and doing things virtually. And generally speaking, I think the time that people usually call about their assessment is when they get their market value. I think that's in March, isn't it?
Right. So in March, the value notices and the tax statement go out together in the mail. And that's usually when people start calling on their value to let us know if there's if they have some concerns with their value. So we really had to ramp up really quick to make those changes so that we could do it's in our appeal season to get that work done.
Okay, so, and so if people have questions, they can call in, and hopefully by next year, once they get this, that there will be an opportunity to maybe see someone in person. But regardless, there's a phone number or something on the tax statement that goes out that says if you have a question about this, now is the time to contact us, if I remember correctly.
That's correct, Madam Chair. And also, when we want to talk about appeals, so there's really 3 ways for us to appeal a property. Is when you get your value notice in March, you have the administrative open book appeal. Then you have the Special Board of Appeals and Equalization. And then after that, the only option to appeal is for the property owner to go to Minnesota Tax Court. So they still have time to do that. They have till time to file that till April 30th of next year. That's when they would have to file. So they still can appeal their value this year if they have concerns.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, and I think we have, what did I write there? Can't read my own writing. Well, anyway, I guess, again, the open data portal has been brought up, and so I think people that are listening are probably going to get tired of that, but again, there's no better tool out there for really digging into the wealth of data that we have about, in this case, property records, so, and assessed values. So did you have any additional comments?
None. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Chris Samuel, who is the Director of Property Tax Records and Election Services. The budget is found on pages 119 through 123. Chris.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Good afternoon. I'm going to start off the presentation with the third performance measurement, talking about money coming into the county, and then I'm going to turn it over to our Deputy Director, Heather Bessler, to talk about elections. So I'll talk first about money, and then we'll move to elections.
Okay.
Money ultimately comes to it's coming into the county, ultimately comes to the county treasurer's office, and that's how it gets into the general county accounting system. But we also, the initial point of payment is often happening at individual departments with their own receiving systems, and they range from the equivalent of a cigar box to highly sophisticated systems in terms of the receiving that's coming in. And they're oftentimes tied to different billing systems that are specialized to the department. We've identified actually 36, 37 separate billing systems that feed into these receiving systems. When you think about residents first, one door, and no wrong door, to be able to facilitate payments, then to be able to recognize any of these different locations and to allow a resident to be able to make a payment on a central payment portal or to make a payment at one of these, at one of the service centers, you have to have access to the data to be able to process the payment. You need to know what's owed. You need to be able to process that payment in a centralized system. And this is where the enterprise cashier and receiving management system is coming into play. The enterprise solution that provides centralized receiving, centralized payment portal, access to all this billing information so that the resident can make a payment then either at a location of their choosing or by not going to a location, going online and then making a payment at the time and method of their choosing. We are moving forward with the ECRM project, Enterprise Cashiering Receiving Management. Core business technologies, we have the contract signed with them and implementation work is starting, actually has been starting for a while because we've been identifying needs with the departments. And we are moving forward then to be able to set up that framework that will allow us to process.
You're cutting out.
Anything that is a fashion at a central payment portal.
Okay,
Is this better?
a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Currently, we have a payment portal system, and if you take a look at the performance measure number 3, Zach, if you want to bring up the performance measures.
That's on page 122?
122,
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Currently, we have a payment portal that is used for property tax payments. So if you think about that, you can make payment by credit card, by debit card, and by e-check for any of your property taxes. And that represents about 65% of the money that comes into the county. If you think about property taxes being
You know, I'm sorry, Chris, can you tell me what
out of about $5 billion in a year.
Chris, can you tell me where the performance measures are in here? I'm on the wrong page.
Page 122, I believe, if you're looking at the book.
Yeah, that appeared to be for elections.
It's both
And it would be the
elections.
third
Well,
measure.
Madam Chair, it's number 3 on the performance
oh,
measure.
okay, you know what? I was thinking this was all in one. Okay, sorry about that. So number 3 on page 122 is specifically about property tax receipts. Thank you.
Correct.
Okay, sorry about that.
So right now, you can make payment for property tax. And what we're looking at is expanding that to include additional items through the ECRM system to allow that central payment portal. We, for COVID, we actually have already expanded the payment portal. So we're not waiting for ECRM to do some of those expansions of the payment portal. We found out pretty quickly after COVID hit that there were a number of businesses that were impacted that because they had shut down, locked in those businesses. And so consequently, environmental health sent out license renewals and the businesses didn't have an easy way to make payment. And so we expanded the payment portal then to allow credit cards to be processed through that payment portal to pay for licenses because the businesses didn't have a good way to have that happen otherwise. So we're expanding the payment options even now without waiting for ECRM, but ECRM is to allow a number of additional channels. So it's not just credit card, debit card, e-check. It's going to be things like Google Pay and Apple Pay and PayPal and other options for making payments that currently we don't have a mechanism to be able to accept. So this is going to be able to allow the customer to make payments in the method that they choose that is best meets their needs for making those payments. I do want to take a moment to say that this doesn't necessarily, one of the reasons behind this is primarily customer service. It doesn't mean that we're going to get money sooner. There's a common misconception that by using electronic payments or using credit card, that means that we actually get the money sooner. Actually, when you pay by credit card, it takes longer for us to get the money. And so just to be aware that we're not doing this because it gets us money faster. We're doing this because that's what our customers are asking, and they want that flexibility in terms of being able to make payment. The rollout of the ECRM system is going to happen in phases. It's going to be over the next few years. We're not going to do a big bang to all the departments at the same time. That would be huge with all the integrations that are involved to make that happen. And so instead, we're handling departments based
Say, Chris, he cut out again.
Yeah, sorry. I was still on mute, and yeah, I think he has been bumped out of the meeting. Okay. Well, I've been on a lot of meetings with him, so he will try to get back on. Let's see if he can do so. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Hey, Chris, why don't you try turning your camera off? That might help.
It's not on. It doesn't appear to be anyway.
Oh,
Or
you
maybe
turned
it
it
is.
off.
I can see him.
Oh,
Yeah.
there we go.
There he's not. Now
Okay.
he's not.
Chris, try that, see if that works.
Okay,
All right.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
So the measurement we're using is focusing on the dollar volume. And over time, as we get increased visibility to the number of transactions, we'd like to shift to how many transactions can our customers actually transact through this centralized system. So right now, we're looking at 65% of the money coming into the county can come from through the existing situation with property taxes. And ECRN looking at pulling in additional departments and moving that up to 70%. Think that shift from 65 to 70% is actually $75 million. That's huge when you start looking at that from the standpoint of how many library fines or how many golf fees can come into play there. So we're talking about huge changes there in terms of transaction volume moving forward. And that's why we would like to shift this to a transaction level view, but we don't have the visibility at this point to that activity that's happening at the initial receipt centers throughout the county. So over time, we will improve the measure by switching from total dollar volume to transactions. I had mentioned property taxes. We have a big lift going on right now in that we're switching to a new property tax system. We are midway in the process, and by next year at this time, I'm expecting to tell you that we are implemented live on that system. A huge effort across the organization, across the departments to get that in place, but that is moving forward to get us in place by going live next year. I also want to mention compassionate regulation. I've talked to you in prior years about compassionate regulation and introduced the concept. We need to go beyond the statute. We don't have to stop at what the statute is or the rule is, that we can, in fact, we need to offer additional services, and we need to recognize the human being on the other side of our transaction and what assistance they need, which is not necessarily just, we don't need to stop at the rules. We don't need to stop at the statutes in terms of how we provide service. We are now under Residents First going to be looking at implementing compassionate regulation enterprise-wide. We have done some of that work previously within IPR, and we are now going to be looking at that and rolling that out to apply the lens to our activity through all operations in the county. And so I wanted to bring that to your attention. Expect to be hearing a lot more of that as we move forward, because that is just getting off the ground in terms of an enterprise-wide look, and I expect much happening as we move forward. With that, I will stop and turn the presentation over to Heather to talk about elections.
Before we do that, I would like to ask commissioners if they have questions about this section, and I do have one, and that is with the increased use of credit cards. I know that at one point, well, by state statute, we have to collect the actual, in addition to the taxes or whatever is being paid, we have to collect the fee that the credit card company charges from the person using it. And since some of those are based on percentages, I know that that was a hindrance to some folks, especially when they're paying, you know, a full year of property taxes or a half year of property taxes. So can you tell me a little bit more about the credit card fees?
Madam Chair, as it relates to property taxes, you're absolutely correct. Statute requires that the additional fees for processing that electronically have to be paid by the customer. That's a requirement that they be passed along. However, we have a number of other areas and departments or operations around the county where they're looking at absorbing those fees as opposed to charging them as an additional fee. And the new ECRM system will actually allow us as a county to absorb those fees as a cost of operations instead of passing that cost on to the person who's paying electronically. And the new system will actually allow us to have both types included as part of a single transaction.
It was my understanding, though, that this was under state statute. Has
As
that
it relates
changed?
as it relates to property taxes, it is under state statute there, and the customer in that case would still have to pay the additional fee.
Okay, so for property taxes, that's not going to change even under the new system, but for other fees and so forth, it could. And honestly, with property taxes, that's probably the biggest that we would have, so that would be a lot to absorb, obviously, so that's probably why it's put in statute. Okay. Do other commissioners have questions specifically about this? Yes, they do. Okay, Commissioner McGuire and then Commissioner Carter.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Director Samuels, thank you for your report. I have a question. I don't believe I see it addressed yet, and you may not be able to answer this, but we knew that when the pandemic started, the taxes that were due in the spring, that we were giving people, or that were the first round of taxes, we were, advising people to let us know if that was problematic, and we would work with them on that. And are we doing anything? I mean, I'm confident that people can still do that if they want for this second roll. We all anticipated that this October tax payments would be the more difficult ones. So can you talk a little bit about what we might be offering? I mean, I believe we're obviously still, people can still call and say if they're having trouble and what that would look like. So just if you could clarify what people's, what people can do.
And actually, I think I will take that one because the I chair the property tax work group or subcommittee, excuse me. And we have a meeting that's set up actually for next week to give an update on what happened in the spring and the July payment, or the deferral to the July payments for those that were non-escrowed, and what we had set up. And so actually, I mean, anybody that has an issue, as Chris pointed out, the compassionate, what did you call it?
Regulation.
Compassionate regulation.
Regulation.
I mean, that has always been there and always will be there. So if people are having a problem when it comes to October, they should contact him whenever to talk about what the issues are. But we will be making, the subcommittee will be making a report shortly after we meet to the policy advisory committee, and talking about next steps.
Okay. Thank you for that reminder, Madam Chair. You did say that we were having that, and that question definitely goes to that group. So thank you for that.
Okay, Commissioner Carter.
Thank you for all of the work that has been done, and particularly for your advice and help during our assessment of whether or not there were services needed or extensions needed during COVID-19 and the upcoming work as well. I do want to also appreciate the work around the collections management or receipts management system, and that, I look forward to its extending our ability to receive online payments from a variety of different sources. Just want to check in because I know that these kind of extended abilities take a lot to design and to manage, that this is not something we're going alone on, but that it is a part either of a collaborative process, or is it a purchase that we are making that will accommodate some things for us. This isn't a system that we will end up maintaining alone. Just your help on that, please.
again, if I could, and then I think Chris can speak to this as well. As
Oh, he's
far
not
as
there? Okay. He is there,
gone?
right? He is
Okay.
there.
No, I
I
just
am
wanted
here.
I wanted to state that, again, the subcommittee is going to be talking about this, but the extension that was granted and the work that went on between Ramsey County and the Association of Minnesota Counties and other metro area and other counties in Minnesota was just for that first payment. And the request then was that we would get back together to find out what those payments looked like, what happened, the number of people that were able to take or that needed to take advantage of that. We do know that there weren't a lot, but for those that needed it, it was literally a lifesaver as far as their businesses or their homes. And we're able, because at that time there was a lot more influx than there is right now. People didn't know about unemployment or the extended benefits, and now we've got more information on that. So
Please allow me to clarify that my question is not about that. It is about the collections and receipts management system and whether or not this is something that we're going alone, or is it in collaboration or a purchase from a vendor. Just expressing concern around the ability to manage to this over time. Thank you.
Okay. I combined your question and Commissioner McGuire's. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
The system that we're using here is none that's being. So we are the national company that deals and provides those capabilities, not only for governments but for other entities throughout the country. So yeah, we are not in this on our own. And one of the reasons we went with, they already have out of the box a number of established integrations that we can use with a number of our subsidiary systems. So we're building something to Ramsey County that we don't see as being supportable either, and not where we want to go longer term. So absolutely, we've got that in mind.
Thank you.
Great. We got most of that answer, and I think we got the most important parts of it, correct? Okay. Are there any other questions for Chris? Thank you. Okay, then we will, let's see here. Who is up next? Is it Heather, I think? Yes, Heather.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm Heather Bessler. I'm the Deputy Director of Property Tax and Election Services. Today, I'd like to talk about how COVID-19 has impacted election services and then move on to speaking about one of our performance measures. As David and I shared Tuesday at the board workshop, elections has been dramatically impacted by COVID-19. Everything from the way voters are casting their ballot to the way we conduct our daily business to our physical footprint for workers and warehouse space has needed to be analyzed and adjusted. Elections has worked diligently, often in concert with our other county department partners, to provide safe and secure elections and a safe working space for our team members and election judges. As introduced at Tuesday's workshop meeting, Elections is planning to offer numerous in-person ballot drop-off sites for the general election. The sites will be located at the county's service centers, absentee vote centers, some city hall locations of our municipal partners, and at the community career labs in some of the St. Paul public libraries. During the 7-day period immediately prior to the election, we will also offer night and weekend ballot drop-off events. To date, we've received over 100,000 requests for absentee ballots for the general election. We are confident these new ballot drop-off locations will provide voters a secure way to return their ballot where they can be confident it is received by and processed by our office. The performance measure I'd like to highlight today is the second measure listed on page 122 of your budget book, the percent of all voters voting for the first time. The percentage of first-time voters provides an indication of how well we are reaching those that have not voted in the past. A couple measures that support we are on our way to meeting this performance measure is the number of registered voters within the county and the rate of growth in registered voters. During the primary election, Ramsey County hit an all-time high for registered voters of 322,025. As of September 1st, we are at 324,650 voters, which means we have seen an increase of 2,600 voters over the last 2 weeks. We have also seen an increase in registered voter counts in the precincts we have previously tracked, and voter turnout has held relatively constant. Between November 2018, when the Community Partner Program was first implemented, and August 11th, 2020, St. Paul Ward 1, Precinct 9, saw its number of registered voters increase by 182 voters, which equates to an 8% growth rate. The voter turnout rate for Ward 1, Precinct 9 remained constant around 20% between the presidential primary and the August primary. For the general election, this is an area where outreach efforts will be concentrated, and we will lean on our community partners to help continue moving this bar. Work being done to support this performance measure, along with our racial equity and community engagement goals, includes our communications campaign and our work with our 19 community partners. The kickoff to our communications campaign was a vote by mail postcard. The postcard was sent to registered and non-registered voters, which means it hit every residential mailbox in the county. It included content in multiple languages and discussed how to find more information and how to request an absentee ballot. Our communication campaign has also included targeted social media outreach, paid advertisements, radio interviews, and translated videos. We are able to focus our outreach on certain neighborhoods and communities within the county by utilizing the statistics on the elections dashboard story on the open data portal that displays turnout by precinct. An example of this outreach are the radio ads we ran on community-based radio stations, Radio Ray, KMOJ, and KFAI. This outreach will continue and will grow as we move into the general election. We are also working with our 19 community partners to perform voter outreach and recruit election judges, which has enabled us to focus our outreach on specific communities and precincts. Our community partners have also translated voter outreach and election judge recruitment videos and are attending public events on our behalf. Our elections office follows the 1965 Voter Rights Act, which requires election administrators to provide language assistance tools in the polling places. We've been able to meet and exceed this expectation through the work with our community partners, who have helped us see up to a 30% monthly recruitment rate since January of 2020 of election judges who identify as non-white and/or are bilingual. We also have certified translators available in our Plato office, at our Roseville Absentee Voting Center, and at some of our 7-day absentee voting locations. The translators at the Plato office are also available on Election Day via phone to supplement the election judges already in the polling places. With this, we are able to ensure all have equal opportunity to cast their ballot. Thank you for the opportunity to provide this information to you today, and I'd be happy to stand for questions.
Okay, Commissioner Matos Castillo, and then Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You were reading quickly on stats. Could you share those stats again that you shared about the voter increase in Ward 1, Precinct 9.
Sure. Madam Chair, Commissioner, between November 2018, when the Community Partner Program was implemented, and August 11th of 2020, St. Paul Ward 1, Precinct 9, saw its number of registered voters increase by 182 voters, which equates to an 8% growth rate.
Wow, that is fantastic. I just think that all the way around our election team is doing such great work, and we're seeing it by the data. And so I just want to really say thank you. These are, of course, in the areas where people who have been historically marginalized, their voices haven't been part of the loud group, so to speak, of representation. And so it's really great to see that we're engaging in new ways to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to have their voice heard. So thank you very much for your work, and we continue to work forward coming to November of this year. Thank you. Commissioner McGuire.
For all of your work. We just support you and your department's efforts to engage all of our communities, especially our difficult to engage, unengaged or disengaged communities. So thank you for all of that. I'm going to just say how much I appreciated the long conversation we had on Tuesday and all the information that was provided. And I'm just going to ask you to just repeat a little bit of it for those people that are listening to budget hearings but perhaps missed it on Tuesday. The fact that people can drop off their ballots, if they are nervous about the mail, they can drop off their ballots at a drop box at our service centers and our area. So if you could just comment on that. And you mentioned the Roseville absentee voting office. Is that at the library in Roseville? Is that where that is, or is there a different absentee voting office in Roseville? So if you could just clarify that, and then clarify the drop boxes, because
Sure.
I've had a number of questions from people who want to drop off their ballot instead of mailing it.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Commissioner McGuire, a new service that we are looking to implement for the general election is to provide secure in-person ballot drop-off locations. I specify locations and not drop boxes for a purpose. The locations where voters can drop off their ballots are staffed by our trained election staff, who can view the signature envelope on the ballot, containing the ballot, to make sure all the needed information is there, to ensure that their ballot is accepted and is able to be processed and does not have to be rejected, and then a subsequent ballot sent out to that voter. Those locations will be at our Plato office and at all the county service centers. Our 3 absentee voting locations that run for the full 46-day period. And then for the 7-day period prior to the election, we have an additional 4 locations that we open for absentee voting. Those will also be ballot drop-off locations. We are currently working with our municipal partners to have some of their city halls also function as ballot drop-off locations. And we are partnering with the City of St. Paul Public Library System to provide ballot drop-off services at their community career labs that are in the public libraries as well.
So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And you're right, I have to start saying locations. So this is different than a drop box. So a drop box, I'm not quite sure what the hours are, but this would be then on an hourly basis. You can't just come anytime and drop off something. You'd have to bring it when the service center or when the location is open. That's correct? So there'll be hours for these locations, and people can go online and find that. But just because you mentioned the locations that are going to be in full service for these 46 days before the election, those are our service centers, which are the Ramsey County libraries in Roseville, Maplewood, and White Bear Lake, and then the service centers at Plato, and I'm missing the 5th one. So are those the service, when you talk about the service centers, those are the ones that are there?
Madam Chair, Commissioner McGuire, yes.
Okay.
Those are there are, I believe there are 5
service centers, right?
I don't think
Not White Bear Lake, is it
Library.
Shoreview?
Not White
Is it-
Bear.
Is it
Thank
not the
you.
library?
Okay,
Director Sicklin for that.
someone in the chambers clarify where those 5 service centers are? Because now, I'm not sure if it's Shoreview or if it's the courthouse, Plato.
Yep. Madam
I
Chair,
don't think the East Building, yeah.
Madam Chair, we'll have John,
That would be helpful.
we'll have John Sickvillen
We're
come
going
up
to
and,
confuse people otherwise.
okay, actually Zachary is going to pull up the website and we can look at it online.
We will begin advertising as soon as possible about this new service, and we will have all of the information about the locations and the hours of each location on our website. It'll be part of our communications campaign for the election. So those drop-off service centers in various locations, the drop-off will be available during their business hours. And then the 7 days prior to the election, we will be providing weekend and night hour events for voters to also drop off their ballot.
Okay.
Thank you.
And for people like me who are trying to look at that on the screen, could you just read the 5 locations, please? It's difficult to read on smaller screens.
Do you want me to read them? I can read them, Madam Chair. Or if
yes,
Heather,
please.
yeah. Well, it is the downtown St. Paul on Kellogg Avenue. That is the courthouse, I believe, yeah. And then the Plato building at 90 Plato Boulevard West. And then the Ramsey County Libraries at Maplewood, Roseville, and Shoreview.
Okay.
Sorry, I said White Bear. Sorry about that. I mistakenly included that library in White Bear. It's the library in Shoreview.
Yes, the larger library.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
And Commissioner McGuire, we can correct,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
not the courthouse, it's actually the East Kellogg building.
Oh, sorry. It's not the courthouse. The East Kellogg building. Sorry.
Yes. Okay. And those are available on the website. And I think as we are get closer to that, I mean, even next week, it will be just a week out from the absentee ballots going out. We can hopefully post that not only on the website, but maybe some other, well, there are other ways that this is going to be getting out on social media and so forth. Okay, did you have any other questions, Commissioner McGuire?
I'm good, Madam Chair. Thanks for all that clarifying. I
Okay.
appreciate it. My people
Well,
have been
and
asking about it, and elected officials out there have been asking about it, so I'm happy to get this information.
Well, and I have a couple of other questions about this as well. Now, we have secure drop boxes for other documents at these same service centers. So what if someone drops their absentee ballot in those secure locations? Is that okay?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, we will be starting when absentee voting starts on September 18th. We will be posting signage on the drop boxes, the county drop boxes, indicating to voters that they should return their ballot in person at one of the numerous service centers or our absentee voting locations or at those community career labs. The reason why we are instructing voters to return their ballot in person, I think, is illustrated by the experience we had for the primary election. The Saturday before that election, we held a ballot drop-off event where we had approximately, I believe, 130 ballots returned in person. And of those 130 ballots, 30 of them would have been rejected because they were missing information on that signature envelope. By returning the ballot in person, we are able to ensure that the information is on that envelope and the ballot can be accepted and processed when it's returned. Instead of having the voter, instead of contacting the voter and having either them return to our office to provide the missing information or wait for another ballot to be sent to them via the mail.
Okay, well then I would assume that those, the normally secure drop boxes, which are at the same locations, I believe the same 5 locations. I don't know that we have others out there, but that they would have a phone number, that it would be in more than one language, and that they could actually do that at that time. Now, if they come after hours when there's not an in-person opportunity, hopefully they will come back or decide what they want to do with it. I also think that it's important because, you know, there's so much discussion about this. And I think that because we had these so close together, it's hard to remember what you said when. But I believe that if, for the mail-in ones, if there is an issue, that voter is notified and given the opportunity then to make it so that it will be an acceptable ballot. But the other thing is, for people that have never voted absentee before, when we talk about we're going to check for this, we're going to check for that, they don't necessarily know how this actually works, because the outside envelope does have all the identifying information to make sure that that can't be used by anyone else, that there's all the security that's built into that. The actual ballot is secret. As it's being put into, nobody can take that ballot and say, oh, that's how Victoria voted. And so it's a very secure system, and I think that it's worth you explaining it better than I just did.
Certainly, Madam Chair, Commissioners. The process for voting absentee by mail, the ballot is delivered to the voter through mail with a series of envelopes. There's the outside envelope it's delivered in. There's a secrecy envelope. It's a gold-colored envelope. That's what the voted ballot gets placed in. Once the voter votes it, that envelope is sealed and it's placed within a second envelope, which is called the signature envelope. That envelope is what identifies who is returning that voted ballot. And then to return the ballot via mail, there's actually a third envelope. That's the mailing envelope that those other two envelopes and the ballot go into. Once a ballot is returned to our office, we remove the outside envelope if it came via mail. So we are looking at the signature envelope. And we look at that to verify that the voter's information is on there. And if the witness requirement was in place, we would look to make sure that it was witnessed. Right now, due to a consent decree, that witness requirement has been removed for the 2020 general election. After the ballot has been accepted, it will be stored securely in our offices until the 2 weeks before the election, when we can start opening them and processing them. At that point, the signature envelope will be opened and the gold envelope containing the ballot will be separated. And so that gold envelope and the signature envelope that identifies the voter can no longer be tied to each other. So then no one processing those ballots is able to know which ballot belongs to which voter, to ensure that that secret ballot is maintained.
And of course, when there's verification to show that that person actually is registered to vote as well. So somebody can't take a ballot and fill it out in somebody else's name with all the different verifications that are required on that. So we have a very secure system that's been in place for years and years and years. So this is not something that's new to us, and we know that it is a very secure system. So I wanted to reassure people of that. Okay, we are, I better make sure that there aren't other, there are. Commissioner Matas Castillo and, Commissioner Carter.
Thank you. I appreciate all of the explanation about the security of that balloting process and how we are able to ensure that we have safe and secure elections. It's so important. And it's also very, very important to make sure that every vote is counted within that context of security. I know that during this past primary, we had different things going on in counties as we struggled to accommodate the COVID-19 virus. And there were drop-off sites in some areas and not in others. And so I certainly appreciate for the workshop that we are talking about ensuring uniformity with the state as we move toward more normal COVID-19 response. And I just wanted to follow on your question, Commissioner Reinhardt, as you were talking about the fact that we do have the drop-off boxes and ballots being dropped off at sites and those being the same, and to ensure that we have a process of monitoring. I'm certain that, given all we're going through in transition right now, we have a process of monitoring those boxes, contacting as we are able to ensure that they're able to vote, but then also making very, very certain that we are monitoring those boxes daily and making certain at this point that we can manage to the potential of that era. Thank you.
Well, and that's a very good point, because the fact of the matter is, if somebody comes and in person isn't an option at that point, they probably will put them into the other boxes. But what that does is it means that some of them may be rejected because they don't have all of the information on them. But that is something that we have to deal with on those that are mailed in, and we've had a process again in place for a long time that can get back to that voter. That is why it is so important that once you know who you are voting for, that you get it in soon. If you wait until the last minute and there's a problem, there's not a lot that can be done about it, although we have had, as far as the mail-in date, it used to, just for this election cycle, it is 2 days after the election, as long as it is postmarked by the election day, where normally it has to be arrived, or it has to have arrived by whatever the time is on election day. So we've got a little more leeway there, but
Madam
for
Chair.
anybody that's voting absentee, as soon as they know who they want to vote for, they should send it in to avoid any problems with it not being verified ahead of time. So yes, I think monitoring those boxes as well, because there will likely be some that will end up in there, and obviously a lot will be mailed in and hopefully done early. So
Madam
those
Chair.
ballots are coming out on September 18th, correct?
Correct. Madam Chair, for a point of clarification, for the general election, we actually have 7 days after Election Day for ballots that are postmarked on Election Day to be returned to our office and counted for the general election. It's different from the primary, which you are correct was 2 days. For the general election, it's 7 days. Yep.
Probably a good plan, given some of the changes that have taken place with the post office. So, all right, that's even better. But still, get your ballots in early. I mean, get them in as soon as you know who you want to vote for, because if something comes in on the last day, even and it's postmarked, if there's a problem with it, it may not the correct signature, or there's something with it that doesn't match up. You would not be able to correct it at that point. Okay. All right. I think, just a second, I'll check to make sure there aren't any other questions. No other questions. Thank you to you, Heather, and to Chris for this section. And at this point, I'm going to take a 5-minute break. That seemed to work before to have just 5 minutes, so let's do that. It is now 2:42, so let's come back at 2:47, 2:48, somewhere in there. Thank you. down. Thank you. It was very loud. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the Budget Committee of the Whole back to order. Do we have folks in the chambers ready?
Madam Chair, we're all here.
Okay. So the next section is Information Services with Rich Christensen, the Chief Information Officer. The budget is included on pages 124 to 127. So I will turn it over to Rich, who gets a few emails from me once in a while saying, hey, is this spam?
Madam Chair,
So
Commissioners.
anyhow, and probably from others as well. Thank you,
Yes.
Rich.
Yes, Madam Chair, you are exemplary in your anti-phishing activities, and I use that example with people all over the county, so thank you. Madam Chair, Commissioners, Rich Christensen, Chief Information Officer and Director of the wonderful Information Services Organization. And by way of intro to the performance metrics, I want to give an example of recent activity. Working with Workforce Solutions, the Dynamo Ling Becker, was challenged to go out and sign up community partners and have them all sign a common memorandum of understanding that would allow them to activate in her efforts against COVID-19. And you can imagine, Chris talked about organizations where we would normally talk to somebody that's in their office. Same thing in all of these community organizations. They may be working from home. You can imagine trying to send a chain letter type of signature around to 24 different small organizations that may or may not be present in their physical location. And I'll get that all done by the end of June to meet a federal mandate and execute against her efforts against COVID. So we partnered with Ling and her team to put together an electronic signature solution, and then as part of the IS effort, broaden that out to what other organizations within the county have the same kind of electronic signature requirement, and then went forward and found a solution that would allow us to move rapidly and get Ling in position to accomplish what she was trying to accomplish. And the organization more broadly as well, the Technology Governance Committee held an emergency meeting in order to put the rigor of technology governance while moving fast, procurement and our IPR contracting team helping with the effort. And so we put together a solution relatively quickly and worked with Ling, and by the end of June, she had all 24 signatures on this document and they were moving forward. And we have an electronic signature capture solution that can scale to other parts of the org and is starting in that effort now, although the early adopters are a little bit easier than the scale aspects of it, but we've got a solution that we've thought about cybersecurity, scalability, the ability to support it, how do people access it and download it to their desktop to use their that type of thing, right? So all those more industrial strength things that you need to have a full-size IS solution in place. We've considered those in the decision making and then are moving that forward. So, in the idea of IS as a technology solution provider and problem solver, we see here that we're working with Workforce Solutions to help them be productive, and that's really at the end of the day, we can use technology to make everyone in Ramsey County more productive. We have Workforce Solutions themselves be able to be productive in a different environment than what they were in before, and the community partners of them also being able to do their piece of it in a more productive fashion as well. So that's at the crux of what we're chartered to do, is helping Ramsey County achieve its goals of a community where everyone thrives. So translate that into performance metrics. We have a performance metric around making everyone more productive, and with the modern methods here where people are spread around, as we see right here in this meeting, how do we make people productive in a collaborative way? It's one thing for people to get assignments and do work and to be isolated in that activity. It's another thing to feel connected. And so we're bringing collaboration tools to bear that allow people to share documents, to swap back and forth control, to have meetings that run over time rather than just like a video conference type of call, It's something that allows you to, it's almost like you have a conference room in place and people can wander in and out of the conference room and collaborate, give that fluidity in a more virtual world. And so we've implemented tools like Microsoft Teams, which is a collaboration tool at its core, and have goals then in our performance metrics as an outcome to say, if we can see that people are embracing these collaboration tools and using them on an increasing basis, that, that's a metric that we can use. And so we have a measurement around that with going from a very small amount of this in past years to 2020, having tens of thousands of collaboration working sessions happening within Ramsey County. And then of course going forward, we're assuming that we're not going back to everybody's going to be in the office all the time, that we're going to a more nimble, more dynamic model for how the county works. And you can see that with people moving into navigator roles and the rapid shifts happening. Can we make that make that as seamless as possible? So that's one of our metrics on that front. And then resiliency, which of course has been a growing topic as the COVID has hit and as we move forward here. And IS can play a very large role in increasing resiliency in the county. And one of the ways we can do that is to make the staff more able to work wherever they need to be working, right? So in the past, the vast majority of our staff had a desktop PC in a fixed location, and they did 98% of their work in that kind of a setting. Some people had laptops that made them a little more mobile, but still had, a fixed location. Going forward, we see people being able to work wherever the work is needed. So when we say mobile in this case, we're talking about your ability to work from home, your ability to come in and work here at the courthouse, your ability to go into the community and bring your technology with you, right? So that kind of fluid, resilient way of doing business. And if we have future waves of pandemic where we've started to see people, we had a wave of people come out of the office, completely work only from home. Now we see some of those people work sometimes in home, sometimes in the office. We have kind of general data that we can see the trend. If we have another wave and people have to go back to more at home, can we do that without all the heroics we had to go through in March and April of having people pick up a device and go bolt it in at home and try to make it work? If we have a laptop based and a mobile technology base, we have a great ability to improve that. So we are rapidly deploying laptop-based technology, and that'll eventually translate into lighter weight technologies as well as we engineer, a future state of a more mobile workforce. And it'll feed into residents first facilities that you saw, a while back when they came forward with their board workshop. It was last year already, and talking about what are we doing with facilities, how are we moving people closer to the community, having them provide more variety of services, bring the technology to bear for that. So that's another one of our measurements that we're working on. Okay. And then I would bring up the next one in the race, equity, and community engagement arena. If you listen to safety and justice yesterday, to my colleagues earlier, there's a lot of work going on in that arena, and often IS is an enabler of those things. Karen says the great enabler. I would be a little more humble than that. We have a long way to go to be great, but we are an enabler. But what we're trying to do in this metric is push ourselves further out into the mix to say, how is IS directly engaged in the race equity activities of the county? And so back to the workforce solutions example, where we partnered with Ling and her team. We're now partnering with Karen Berg on Ling's team, so that we'll have IS team members be a part of workshops or mentoring activities with people who are coming through workforce solutions looking for new positions in the IT field. So we'd be active directly in that model, right? And so this metric is really us saying we're signing up to find multiple ways for us to be directly engaged. And I just received a note from Thielgergen on my team, and he's, you can feel the energy in the note. It says, we just had a great discussion with Hennepin County and Ramsey County leadership centered around how to close the digital divide. So he understands the partners like the Comcast of the world and how their models work, and working directly with people at Ramsey County and Hennepin County and saying, hey, how do we work together to take a next step in reducing that digital divide? So instead of, being there to help, actively in that participation model. So, and we've done some of this along the way. When our technology life cycle ends, we have devices that can't run Windows 10, and we have to be on Windows 10 to be secure. The device is still a good quality device. We move those devices into charitable organization model. So we've done some of these things where we're more directly engaged, but that's the idea, is to to move in that direction. And then next year, when we look at TARP, talent attraction, retention, promotion, coming to fruition, my favorite thing of all things, we're looking at methods to say, where do we hire? And today we hire into the tech areas like the service desk at an entry-level position. And it gives us great access into local colleges and tech schools and so forth. But in other areas, like in our IS business analyst arena, there is no entry-level business analyst today. So I miss an opportunity to reach into the community at that level. So through TARP, with a better career pathing model where we can have entry-level positions that allow us to bring people in that way, as well as ways to bring people in at the, at all levels, including to the executive level. But a lot of our hiring starts at that more entry level. So can we make that, better reflect the community as well? So those are the types of things that we're looking to do in our race equity and community engagement aspect of the performance metrics. Okay. So with that, that's kind of the general framework, and I will stand for questions.
Okay. Are there questions from commissioners? Commissioner Modis Castillo.
Yes, thank you so much for another great presentation. As you're talking about those performance measures, can you just tell me in the race equity what the 3, 5, and 7 stand for? Is that the number of projects he'll be engaged in?
Yeah, that's the idea, is kind of force us to say, we're going to find a way to do at least 5 of these type of initiatives, like what we're doing with Workforce Solutions, or the other ones. So it's a way to just push us into a defined number, right? So yeah, it's a simple quantity type of a deal in this case. We worked with our PMAT person, Kasong Yang, on how to go about this to be more outcome oriented. But in this case, it seemed like a way to push us to the front was just to put a flat number there.
Okay, thank you. And one other question. So this is the areas we're talking about the budget that we have proposed. We had some additional monies planned in 2021, but this revised budget really cuts that back. And so can you have a lot planned, but will there be significant impact, as you're balancing that new work? Because I think it's really important, especially if we're becoming more digital than ever, and we move very quickly, and thank you for that very much, is that I want to set the stage that this investment is just being delayed, not cut forever. Is that right?
The move from 2.8 million as a base amount of money in every year's technology fund to go into 4.8 for 2021 was taken back down for 2021. I would have to defer to Alex if in 2022, 23 we have a defined plan.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, we would have to add that back to the budget in 22 and 23.
Okay. Thank you. I guess the point I was getting at is that, it's kind of like deferred maintenance at some point, is that this investment is really important that we invest in our technology. And though it's a big price tag, we're saying we're not investing this year because we have to balance this budget in a way that works for the community. But to set it on the stage that this investment is going to be needed in the future. So thank you very much.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
We need to correct one thing there, though, that the 2.8 million is still being invested. It was the additional amount that we put in for 2021.
Right.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, that is correct.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there other questions from commissioners? Okay, well, I think I will, are there closing comments from Rich? Because I let's see here. Okay, I think then that I will just do the overview. I realize that I did not do that for for Chris Samuel and for Heather, so property records and election services. And the things that we had, I know I'm trying to find my notes. Oh, here they are. Okay, so for property records, the thing that will be coming back is the property tax subcommittee and what will be updated and recommended for the October payment. We also, from elections, have obviously we'll have a report back how things went after the general election, but also I heard questions about the public communication to make sure that because there are so many absentee ballots, that people understand exactly what they need to do, where they can do it, why different things are important. For IS, I guess the only thing, I don't think there's anything significant coming back to us other than the recognition that additional investments in 2021 won't be there, but that we do all recognize how important technology is now more than ever, because what would we do without it? I don't know what would have happened, but thank goodness we have it in place and we were able to pivot to use that and are finding some very good outcomes in all of that as well. I think IS in many ways is very similar to geographic information systems in that you do your work and it's very time consuming and very detail oriented, but you're so busy doing your work that you don't take the time to get a pat on the back once in a while. And that's, I think, what you were getting here from commissioners and from me as chair of the budget committee on how really important your work is and how much it is appreciated, even though you just go about doing it very quietly.
Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you.
And if I may, in closing, then just say that we received a great outpouring of thanks from all parts of the organization throughout the pandemic. We had one of the public nurses say, "You may not realize it, but you're saving lives." So, you know, we feel very good about that part of it. And then maybe if I could, since you mentioned GIS, a question was asked before about, you know, to Luis about GIS and what part he plays, and is there a common platform for GIS? And the answer to that is yes. IS manages the ESRI platform of GIS and works with Public Works, with the assessor's office, a variety of places, with communications, et cetera, to make that platform available for all the various uses you heard about today.
Thank you. And I think the comment from the public nurse is very appropriate, not only in that area, but in other public safety areas as well. Your information is saving lives. Thank you. Okay, we will move on then to, where am I going here? The Enterprise Project Management Office. Dawn Siegling is the director. The budget is on pages 128 to 132.
Madam Chair, Rich Christensen will be filling in for Ms. Siegling this afternoon.
Oh, okay. Well, then you get to stick around. Go ahead.
I'm back. The reason I'm back is not what we all want to hear. Dawn is back home. She lost her mother early this week, and so she's back with her siblings, you know, taking care of that. And, you know, I think it points out that the pandemic doesn't, you know, defer the other things in life that we all deal with, and that all of our dedicated staff, you know, work their way through and find a way to provide the services we provide. So I'm filling in for Dawn for today. The EPMO does report up to me, so I do have you know, familiarity with the activities there, and ran it directly for a block of time before Dawn. So I think I should be able to you know, give it a good representation. So I'll talk a little bit of an update. You know, the first thing is the, you know, stating the obvious. You know, before I was in this role, I was in consulting, and, you know, consultants are known for telling you what you already know. So my first statement kind of borrows from my previous career. It's Ramsey County is a dynamic organization. Right? And we saw that. I listened to Safety and Justice yesterday, the word transformation coming multiple times. I listened to my colleagues ahead of me here and the tremendous transformation happening in their client, their resident base, and how they're going about providing services. So that dynamic nature creates the need for an enterprise project management office. Right? We started the project management office 7 or 8 years ago when Deputy County Manager Joanna Berg had the CIO title, right? And started out with the idea of technology projects are difficult. Let's get a project management capability in place, use industry best practices that would allow us to ensure we get the scope, the budget, the outcomes done that we're trying to get with the project. And it was technology oriented, and that grew, and technology projects, of course, grew in the county in that same time frame. So it moved along, and now under Deputy County Manager Francois, really the move is to say the county is transforming, and let's use the project management office as an enterprise project management office. So we would be working on things not just technology driven, but anywhere there's a significant change in how people do their work or get compensated, or how they go about the processes, et cetera, right? And how the county goes about its services. And so as an example, one of the initiatives that we were working on starting pre-COVID and then shifted a bit because of COVID was stability starts with a place to call home, right? Which did not start out with a technology base. It's really a kind of a gripping, passionate plea for change, right? And start from there, but still use the disciplines of make that into something tangible, put some time frames to it, get some business analysis around it to say, what does it look like? How do we talk to the resident about this, and make it into enough of a structure where we accelerate achieving the outcome. And right, that the EPMO is really about accelerating achievement of transformational outcomes. That's what the basic charter really is about here. And so in that, the model that we have currently is a highly flexible model. We have a small, very diverse internal team, and we have a group of partners that provide us project management, business analysts, those type of resources. And, and we do the work that way through third party as well. And then now we're expanding into process improvement. So you'll see rapid process improvement type of activities, that are very, kind of common in industry now. We'll apply those things. And organizational change management really becomes prominent because it's really about the people at the end of the day, right? All change really comes down to people. The technology, the other processes, all those things are interesting. It's people that change and have to find their way into the new way of doing things. So, that's really what our model is about. And so we take this flexible model, internal team, creating these practices, organizational change, business analysts, process improvement, project management, program management, taking industry best practices, molding them to work for Ramsey County, and then using third-party network for the transient nature of a project might ramp up, need 2 resources, ramp back down in 4 months. So we use external resources in that mix. So that's kind of how the model works, and we charge out for our services, which then makes us think about our performance metrics, because if our quality of our service isn't good, then my manager might say, Rich, how are you going to make your budget this year? Because your revenue comes from the work that you're doing and that people want you involved in across the county. So we're very much a right at the edge type of organization that way, right? Where we don't have income because of a budget that's already there. We have income because of work we're doing that people welcome us into. So I like it, but it's definitely a different model. And then COVID tested this model, right? We had big programmatic change, people involved, external partners billing us, and COVID hit. All of a sudden, out of 20 initiatives, a half dozen of them stop immediately, another half dozen go into a slowdown mode, others were not sure. So we had to bring our partners in as well and say, okay, it's a new day starting right this minute. We're going to adjust everything. We're going to ramp down so we're not spending county money where there's not a business team to work with us because they're focused on COVID. And then very quickly we found that there was a tremendous amount of demand on COVID-related activity as well, and so we shifted some of the resources that way and made adjustments, and then now have some of these bigger projects, like what Chris talked about with ECRM, those things, back in not a full swing necessarily in all cases, but back working, and so we've adjusted back again. So went through some very rapid adjustments to make that model work. All right, so it kind of leads into I'll highlight a couple of performance metrics. The first one being percent of EPMO consultants hired and brought on board within 30 days. We had a model years ago where we went through the state and their state contracts with third parties, and it could take 4 months to get a project manager. So you can imagine, the nerve-wracking activity of coming to the board, presenting your case, getting approval to go do a project, and then you come to me and you say, I need a project manager now. I've just made this commitment to the Board of Commissioners, and we say, well, we'll start a process. And, we'll find out what the state, when they have time to work on it. So that was one of the things we had took the most flack about, and so we changed that model over the last year to have direct master service agreements with organizations that provide these services, right? And so that allows us then to say we can move much more quickly and source these resources at speed and quality. We actually suffered on quality in the old model because nobody wanted to give up their PM if they thought it was going to take 4 months to get a PM with higher level skill, right? So now we have the ability to stay fresher on that front. So that's one of the metrics that I wanted to highlight because it's what allows the county to move at the speed we want to move now, our ability to move people into the right places and get an OCM very quickly or a project manager, et cetera, process improvement. So that's that part of it. And then that leads into the second performance metric we have a small team, very diverse team. In reality, though, we use 20 external resources at any given time, and so we spend a fair amount of money with the community on these fronts, and with our master service agreements now through the IPR contract team and our procurement organization, COE, we attract and we can see if it's a SBE, minority-owned SBE, women-owned, veteran-owned, various categories, so we can see that we have a pool to draw from that allows us to have a race equity lens as we look at the partners that we work with as well. And so we have that in place now, and we're measuring against starting to use proactively monitoring, managing how we're reflecting the community from the partners we use as well. So those are the two performance metrics that I wanted to highlight. And the EPMO numbers are within the IS numbers overall, not separated out. It's just we have a 4-person team basically. We were 4, went down to 3, just going back up to 4 now. So from an internal team, a very small team. Intended to go larger, but COVID, put a crimp in that activity for a period of time. So with that, I stand for questions.
I have a question regarding the master service agreements and procurement. I mean, it's great to be able to get someone on quickly, but to have those partners and to have those agreements in place. But how do we ensure that somebody new entering that sector is allowed to? How do you get people onto a master service agreement so that everybody has an opportunity, I guess?
Yeah, at best partial answer is that it's open over time. So as a new organization comes into play in this market that has the skill set for it, they can apply. And then, of course, the procurement organization runs their procurement fairs where they reach directly into the community. And these are, and these types of master contracts, like other types of master contracts, would be in that. But to say, have we gone out proactively ourselves and worked in the community on this front yet? Not yet.
Well, and actually, the first part of your answer was what I was looking for. And so it's not something that's, okay, you can apply between this date and this date, and if you happen to be outside of that window, you can't come in and work with procurement to be involved. So it sounds like it's more of a rolling thing than it had been in the past.
Madam Chair, yes. It's
okay, thank you. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Director Christensen, for double duty here. We appreciate that. And just looking at all the good work that you're doing, if you could just talk a little bit about your intersection with human resources, because when I see change management, it feels like a human resources function, and I see you're working with vendors and things, so maybe it's internal versus external, and that may be part of your answer. But just talk to me a little bit, because when like I said, when I see some of these concepts that you're working on, it feels like, I mean, it's great. I just am curious how you're intersecting with a lot of, I believe the change management efforts are going on with all of our staff in human resources.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McGuire, thank you for that question. Yes, if you think about something like organizational change management, like project management, there are industry standard models that we draw from. And so typically an enterprise project management office would be the place where you build enough critical mass in the disciplines of organizational change management, right? And then within HR, they have the disciplines of Ramsey County and what we're trying to do from a culture and a people point of view, et cetera. And so these things, come together in a project basis. So in HR, whether we ever bring in a OCM resource or not, their day-to-day work in all of these areas continues, right? It's when there's a project that forms up that we would bring this discipline of how to go about organizational change, but we would be in a project with the HR team.
Thank you for that. I was thinking that was the case, and so I just wanted you to articulate that. So I appreciate that. And just this is another one of our great departments doing what we really want to see in it with our vision. So thank you for that, and pass it along to all the staff.
Are there others that have questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Well, thank you again for double duty. Our condolences, obviously, to Dawn. I don't actually have anything that I think has to come back to the county board unless I missed something. So thank you, very thorough.
Thank you.
All right. I'm not quite sure how I did this, but we now are ahead of schedule. So I must have misread something here, but we got all the information we need. So we will go to John Sickland, who is the Director of Communications and Public Relations. And maybe he'll have so much to say and we'll have so many questions for him that we'll get out on time, or at the time that we were supposed to, or we'll get out early, whichever comes or whichever happens. The budget for communications and public relations is on page 133 to 136. And this is when we talk about dynamic change in our organization and how we are really making sure that there is transparency and accountability. This is what John and his Office of Professionals really are making happen for our county. And you have really, you had stepped up to the plate before COVID-19 and the civil unrest, but since then, the work here again has been absolutely amazing for a small group of people working on this. So thank you, and I will turn it over to you. Now you have to live up to the expectations that I just laid out.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, good afternoon. I hope to give that bonus time back here, and that you and Rich helped manage us through. Thank you. Happy to be here representing our small but mighty department, as you mentioned, the Communications and Public Relations Department. We are made up of we're less than 20 people, and we're a fledgling department. We are still less than 2 years old compared to some of our colleagues here in the service team who are, north of 170 here. So we'll get there. We're a quick study. Before I get going here, if those of you have your budget bingo cards, you can anticipate partners, service, grateful, and more open data portal. That's what we'll be talking about here today. Been asked to talk about the impacts of COVID-19 on service delivery from our staff. So both due to the nature of our work, our excellent relationship with our partner, Rich Christensen and his team in IS, and our willingness to, and Rich's acclamation of pointing to us when he needs a pilot department, we were the first full department to move off-site. And after the board ratified the state of local emergency, we were out that same day on March the 17th, beginning our remote work in terms of our service delivery. We were an early adopter of Microsoft Teams, and we continue to expand the use of that beyond calendaring and meetings into our project management functions and other aspects like that to try to get the full range of service from that, again, partnering with Rich and his team. From the beginning of our response, our team on the communications and government relations side has been integral to the incident command system. So all of our leadership team, our managers, deputy director, and myself have served in the public information officer function as part of the incident command. Also, government relations has been the primary provider of information for the strategic intelligence section. We have taken advantage and are grateful to that ICS structure for flexibility with contracting and for redeployment. On the contracting side, the changes made to allow rapid contracting allowed us to start acting on things that we foresaw coming up as demands for our services. So whether that be remote programming or sharing our video COVID-19 update, that new content weekly with all of our cable partners here in the county, working more closely with our partners here at the City of St. Paul, who are the ones putting on this very production today. All of those things were aided by the ICS structure. Then on the redeployment side, we were able to augment our staff on the public health side, thanks to the Environmental Health Division and Public Health for redeployment there to help our team on the health and wellness side. Thanks to our friends in corrections for redeployment of a very, very talented person to augment Christine Grill's work on the open data portal. And then thanks to that redeployment structure, we were able to leverage that to bring Cassie Fitzgerald on board to help our government relations team when we are covering for Melissa Finnegan's maternity leave. Congratulations to Melissa and her family. So you referenced this, Madam Chair, and thank you. We, like everyone else in our organization, our team has been busy, and I want to just acknowledge that that's a lot of hard work on behalf of our team. People have put in a lot of hours, and I am very, very proud to have seen everyone on this team step up to help deliver on behalf of our community, whether on the public health side. Chris Burns and his team, the manager there, have actually served on 2 incident command systems. One is the county-wide one, and one is the public health one. Whether it's launching the new service centers and career labs, working on Jen and her team doing remote engagement and adapting to that during the legislative session, creating basically what's a new website at ramseycounty.us/coronavirus, and supporting the racial equity and community engagement, the research team, the expanding of our internal communications. We're communicating with our own employees more than ever, and we've been supporting the county manager and the executive team on that. And so we've done this all while maintaining the blocking and tackling of the everyday communications needs of our organization. So I came to Ramsey County in July of 2014 from Metro Transit. We had just launched the Green Line. This is very reminiscent to me of launching the Green Line every month since March. So it's been a lot of needs on communications. And again, this ICS structure has helped us to scale to that need and the dedication of our staff more than anything. Last year, when I came before you in this forum, I talked about something I was looking forward to in 2020, and that was bringing on board a county-wide advertising firm. That contract has come in very, very useful as we've responded to COVID and developed our skills this year as well. Not only have we improved the amount of leverage for our advertising buys so that we're able to maximize every dollar that we're doing countywide to extend our message as far as we can. We've also leveraged that expertise for help on our elections work. So Deputy Director Allison Winters has worked very closely with them at Meter to have a very, very effective campaign with the primary election. You heard about that earlier this week from Heather and the team there. And so everything we learned there, we're going to roll right for the general election, as per the earlier conversation we've had here this afternoon. I mentioned we are a new department. You may recall we consolidated our communications resources only in 2017, and then we became a department last year here with government relations and the partners with the Historical Society and U of M Extension Service. I frankly don't know how we would have been able to scale and meet the needs of the community had we not followed your vision and brought these resources together in a way that we can adapt them where needed. So if it's Director Becker at Workforce Solutions who's launching new programs, bringing our staff to bear and bringing those resources to focus on that when the need is highest, and then moving them into other areas where as need be. So just wanted to share that point. Switching over to performance measures, if we could. Thank you. So I'm going to do a little paradox here. I'm going to just say a word about the measures that I'm not going to talk about. So the one that you see on your screen right now, the engagement rate here, this is an evolution. You may recall, as I've appeared before you in previous years, part of our journey in this consolidation has been to bring a digital communication strategy together that meets people where they're at, and to really think about our editorial sequencing, our audience, targeting messages to appropriate audiences, and using all of our tools in concert to maximize that message and our impact. In the past, our performance measures focused on sort of tallies. How many people do we have that are following our Twitter account? How many people do we have that are viewing pages on our website? Those sorts of things. And all of that is available from the performance measures page here. We're continuing to do that. Those tallies are still there. And just as a point of reference, we've grown to more than 30,000 social media followers. We've grown to more than 103 people who subscribe to our emails. And we have about nearly 250,000 people that are using our website every month. But I'm going to, our performance measures in this area have become more sophisticated. So now we're not talking just about tallies or outputs. We're talking about outcomes. So following the performance measures process for this year and this cycle, we're looking at what is the engagement rate. And how are people interacting with our content? What do we know about that? And starting to measure that in a more sophisticated way than stacking up those tallies. If you don't mind, could you scroll down? If you could just scroll down a little more, please. So the performance metric I do want to focus on is this one about service. So in late 2018, the Communications Department and the IS Department and Project Management Office underwent a modernization program where we had a survey of our clients, our partners throughout the organization and outside of the department. And one of the pieces of feedback that we got on the communications side was, through this consolidation process, we as your partners, we as your department partners need a way to talk about service and really measure this and incorporate this into a continuous improvement system. And so not unlike Director Bach's presentation earlier, we have adopted the use of a very quick and easy customer service score that we will amalgamate from post-project surveys with our department partners. So as an example, if we are wrapping up a roadway project, I-694 and Rice Street, we will survey our public works partners there to get at, were we responsive? Did we manage expectations well? Were the outcomes what you expected? Was it effective? Quick and easy, just a 1 or 2 minute survey with room there to get some comments as well. And so we're working at bringing all these together for all of our major and significant projects to roll up this score and use this to help again, with that continuous improvement on providing a very high and consistent level of service across our organization and across our departments. So I'll move on now from performance measures to some of what we're focusing on in racial equity and community engagement. We're at full strength here. I think maybe for the first time in our short existence in 2020, we've had one hire in this year, and that's Larry Bell, a person of color who's joined us on the workforce team. In addition to the staff side, we're also focused on training, not only the training that's done through our Human Resources Department here at the county, but also our professional association has provided training around racial equity and around microaggressions and around language use that all of our staff took part in earlier this year. We're focused on identifying more vendor opportunities so that we have more minority-owned and women-owned businesses for things like printing, that even if we, communications, aren't paying for the project, we can offer these suite of vendors to our partners in public works or wherever it is to make sure that we are fully working with the range of businesses throughout our region. Communications and lobbying support for racial equity and community engagement is nothing new to us. We are continually involved in advocating for and presenting communication and messaging around this. Looking ahead on the community engagement side, last year we expanded our capacity to add half of an FTE for a position that was dedicated to community engagement, to doing things like helping us organize countywide presence at Rondo Days, the county fair, things of that nature. So we've been pushing forward on that piece as well. And then during COVID, Allison Winters from our team has been working very closely with the research team to share and coordinate message through their trusted messenger and community media programs. So this is a place where we in the communications area are taking these messages and moving them, helping to align that work going forward. But in a way, I would say more excitingly and more valuably for us on that that continuous improvement cycle is getting back messages and starting to see what it is that of the, let's say, entire message that we're providing, what are the pieces of that message that are resonating especially well with certain groups, and then tailoring our messaging and over time making sure that we're presenting our messages in ways that are effective and remain true and useful to whoever we're communicating with. So I think of it like sometimes like a prism. So you might, you have your who, what, where, when, why. You've got it there, and if you don't have the right piece of information in front of somebody and they're looking at this message, it can look like a dumb rock. All it takes is a little adjustment to activate that spectrum. And so this is kind of maybe a weak analogy for how we're starting to move down this road with our partners in research and the community partners that they work with. I want to move on just to say a couple of words about our partner organizations. So in addition to being made up of the divisions of communications and government relations, Communications and Public Relations Department also is responsible for the administrative and budgetary relationships with the Ramsey County Historical Society and with the University of Minnesota Extension Service in Ramsey County. And COVID, of course, is affecting the way that they do their business as well. As a recent example, culmination of a long partnership with the Historical Society and our community task force to identify new artwork here in the council chambers to exhibit as these murals. We had to plan for a public event, an exciting development for this, but we had to work with them and with our partners at the City of St. Paul to produce an event that was socially distanced, that was metered and monitored, but could still capture the acknowledgement, the recognition, the excitement around the artwork that these artists and community group have brought to us. Another thing that we do with the Historical Society is tours of this building and of Union Depot. And we haven't been able to do those. Those have been suspended since mid-March. However, we have taken our resources that we had used for those tours and reapplied that to developing a virtual tour of this building here at St. Paul City Hall, Ramsey County Courthouse. Very excited to be debuting that in the weeks ahead. And so just maybe look ahead to that one. On the extension service side, same challenges. A lot of their programming, which has been in person for 4-H or Master Gardeners or anything else, has had to move online. They've done a lot of that work. They've had to focus on remote work from the barn. Their staff has moved out from the quote-unquote extension barn, and they're working remotely there. We have been working much more closely with them to communicate and use our county channels to promote their programming to help increase that engagement, and happy to say that that's going very well, and that our partners are pleased with our efforts in that area. They are looking, and we're looking into new partnerships with them. In fact, just yesterday, the extension staff from Extension Service met with folks in our housing area to talk about some of the 4-H programming that they have applied for the St. Paul Housing Authority, and seeing what kind of fit might we have to help those families that are without homes but staying in our family service center, educational and other types of activities to keep those families active and bring that kind of activity to them. So then quickly looking ahead to 2021, just wanted to call out a couple of things. One of the we talked about technology a bit. It is that time for a website and RamseyNet midlife refresh. So hearkening back to my time at Metro Transit, when we would put a bus into service on the street, it would go out for 6 years. Then we would take it off the line. It would be out of service. Well, we stripped it to parts. We repainted it. We gave it a once-over, and then we put it back in so it could be extending its useful life. That's, again, maybe a rough metaphor for what we're doing with RamseyCounty.us and RamseyNet now. We're just going into the first phase of discovery and engagement for what we're going to do to keep that site fresh, accessible, compliant, exciting, all of the things that we did with the first Ramsey online project several years ago to extend this and keep our investment in this really critical communication platform fresh and vital for the next phase of its life. On the government relations side, we are going to be providing more flexibility to Jen, Melissa, and the team. The contracts that we have had with our state and federal lobbyists come due at the end of this year. Jen is leading the process along with procurement to look at those contracts and provide more flexibility to bring on vendors into 2021 under terms that allow us more flexibility than, say, a flat monthly rate, but sort of a pay-for-service type of a model. We're also at Deputy County Manager Francois has brought forward a structure in information public records for master contracts of certain classifications. And so government relations and lobbying is one of those, so that if we have interested parties, we will be able to conceivably have a number of partners that we can work with that might be specialists in certain areas. And provided that we're able to identify funding sources and activate those sort of, maybe it's a single issue or just a single interest area, we'll be able to expand the work by bringing on additional contract resources there. Then finally, working with the City of St. Paul, our partnership with them, I have to say, has really strengthened during COVID-19. We've worked a lot with the folks in their Office of Technology and Communication, the folks who produced this very meeting, on working for the Community Career Labs launch and other things. And so we're looking, that contract also comes due this year. We hold that in communications and public relations, and we're talking with our procurement team also about ways to expand that to allow us to better leverage the skills of that team when needed at the county. So just a little preview there of what's coming up. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the bingo cards on open data are going to go a little crazy here. So we heard a lot about the open data portal from our other departments here today. One thing that we talked about was open data stories. And what are some of those? Whether it's the assessor's report, the popular annual financial report, what are those different products that we've been able to provide? And just in a short time, you remember we just launched this about 2.5 years ago, and just in a short time, we've been able to really become an industry leader in this area, and it's really due a lot to the efforts of Christine Grill, who is making a mean face at me right now. So, yes, so that I don't tear up. But Christine is like a one-woman army in driving our open data program forward, and she, both on the technical side, the partnership side, and the business side, has done just an excellent job. And because of our position as really an industry leader, Christine has been able to, along with our partner at Tyler Technologies/Socrata, just wring a lot of additional value, actually hundreds of thousands of dollars of additional value from our partnership with our vendor on this, because they're interested in developing new products and working with our expertise to help offer to other municipalities on things like I mentioned, the assessor's report, the popular annual financial report, some 911 center dashboards, on some of the COVID work that we've been doing. So I just really wanted to end with this piece on the open data portal, because it really is a we are IPR story. You know, when then Policy Director O'Connor and then Deputy County Manager of Information and Public Records Berg were looking at this following the thought leadership of Matt Kokol in our GIS section about moving forward as an organization on open data. So we had the inspiration and expertise of Matt, and we made a commitment to move forward with this. We activated those project management resources from Rich's area that just help ignite this and bring it over the line. This year, the partnership with the Assessor's Office, our long-standing relationship with elections, all of these things have come to bear, and admin putting the glue to make this come all together. All of these things have come together. Chris Samuel identifying the Recorder's Technology Fund as the place to, you know, sustain a personnel complement for this project, modest and powerful as it is. All of these things are really a we are IPR type of story that have come together on the open data portal. And so I just really we've talked a lot about it today. The viewers are probably getting tired of hearing open data portal, but it really is a success story for Ramsey County, and its value has shown through during this pandemic and the types of data that we have been able to activate and provide to our communities. So with that, I will conclude my presentation, and happy to stand for questions. Thank you.
Well, I know that other commissioners have comments as well, but I guess all I can say is wow. I mean, we were the first county to adopt the open data portal model and move things forward. Now, I have to admit that Hennepin County did it later the same afternoon, but we were the first, so that's what matters. And in fact, Matt and others were really the driving force behind that at the state level as well. So anyhow, as I said, in order for us to be open, transparent, provide factual information to our residents in a timely fashion so that it's really available for them, this is where we need to bring all of that together, and you've just done an amazing job. Commissioner Modis-Castillo, you have a question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I first want to start with saying if it felt like a celebration, it could be because it's John's birthday today. So happy birthday to John as we
I was going to do that.
Thank you.
As we not only celebrate him, but we
Excellent.
celebrate the success of the whole communications team. You know, I think it's really, to me, it's really heartwarming all day. It just felt like a celebration of our great successes and the work moving forward as we're doing a budget, which doesn't often happen, and especially in a budget year that we're kind of tightening in close because of the needs of our community, and this is one more example. I know we have often heard commissioners say, we need to tell our story more, we need to tell our story more, but I think if we just give John the platform on more occasions, we can tell our story more, because he really did it in such a great way, and to really celebrate the great work of communications and really all of what Ramsey County is doing. I also want to say thank you so much for the very quick response to updating the website during COVID to make it so that it's accessible. Community can get to resources very quickly. If they're looking for housing or food or locations. I mean, the reaction and the quick work there really is above par and has been very helpful. I use the website every single day and refer community to it. And so it is a good start in the work as you do the reboot of RamseyNet. I think that is a really good model and start as you move forward to build upon, because it really is user-friendly and accessible. I also want to say a special thanks to the government relations team and really all of your departments teams that have had to work very differently, quickly during COVID, and especially in government relations as the session was in and out multiple times, and having to work remotely and not being face-to-face. They've done a really fantastic job, and with your leadership and your support from your team, it really is a credit to the work that we were able to accomplish and continue to as we move forward. So I want to leave on a happy note, happy birthday, and thanks for this great celebration of our communications at Ramsey County.
And what better way to celebrate your birthday, John?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Mattis-Castillo, correct, a budget hearing. Somebody sold me out here. I wonder who it was. Thank you so much for your comments. Both of you, appreciate that very, very much.
Okay. Commissioner Carter and then Commissioner McGuire.
Happy birthday to you. And thank you so very, very much for all of the work.
Could you put your microphone down, Commissioner Carter?
It is down. I'm not sure what's happening with me today.
Oh, there.
Is that better? Okay.
Yes.
So I really appreciate all of the work as well. We all do. And to see the measurements that you have taken the opportunity to highlight here, it's clear that you, as you have done such a marvelous job in the department on making certain that we're communicating well in so very many different ways, you are keeping track of how we're doing and asking for qualitative information and assessment from our community as well, I'm sure. That average score, and your designs toward increasing that average score is helpful. I just noticed as I was going to say that, and I might have missed something, that it's 4.5 in 2021 and 4.7 in 2020. So I'll ask you to come back to that and help understand that. I wanted to ask, as we were just talking about the open data portal, and as it is such a helpful tool for all of us, whether there are usage statistics that you either are keeping, will keep, and also if there is a way in which you will get feedback over time on the usefulness of the measurements that we're able to share on the open data portal as we build forward to make certain we are collecting information on the right measurements and what else is needed so that we can ensure all our partners are able to work with us. I applaud everything you've done there, but just really want to ask that question. And before I turn it over to you to respond to that, no, nix it. That'll go too long. Thank you. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Carter, thank you so much. I might ask if we could pivot to the control room, if we could go. Thank you so much. This is the performance measure page that we were focused on here. And so I'm realizing that I did not explain well enough what 4.5 or 4.7 means. That is on an amalgamated score on a 5-point scale that brings together the results from that questionnaire that has quick questions about scale of 1 to 5. How was the overall project for you? Scale of 1 to 5. How responsive were we? Scale of 1 to 5. How well did we meet your expectations? And so that's where that number rolls up to. And I also am realizing I failed to add that another nice thing about this performance measure in 2020 is that you may, as we've had conversations about performance measures over the years, particularly with government relations, it's just an area that hasn't really yielded itself to a really clean or useful quantitative performance measure. And so beginning in 2020, the customer service score here is also going to be applied after projects such as the platform development or different projects that government relations would be doing on behalf of our departments, so that we've got a useful and a quantitative measure for that work. If we could scroll down a little bit on this page, then on the second question, Just a little more, please. Thank you. So on that performance measure page at the bottom where we see communications and public relations metrics, that's where we've got sort of those numbers of page views by type and all of those things, including the number of data stories and data sets we have on the open data portal and the number of views and people who are engaging with that work. So that is available right through the performance measure by clicking that link and going forward. And then as we, over time, are getting more sophisticated by using the open data portal, as demonstrated, I think, by just it being the backbone of our performance measures presentation through this budget cycle, anyone can access all of these department measures right from the portal, as well as many other data sets having to do with finance, having to do with annual reports for social services and financial assistance services. Every year we're developing more and more of our content that's moving from, say, complex PDF reports of dozens and dozens of pages to this multi-dimensional presentation in the data portal. So all of those, and we learn something every time that we can bring to the next piece, whether it's an annual report or any type of multidimensional data that we are sharing on to track performance measures and metrics beyond that.
Thank you. And I had neglected to remember that last measure, number 3, was about internal users. I appreciate your description of that again. I remember a long time ago asking the question, will Ramsey County ever use social media? And there was kind of this, huh? You have brought us a long, long way, not only in our communications, but our communications and webpage, but also in the social media arena. And thank you very, very much.
Thank you for your remarks, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I was going to echo what you said, Madam Chair. Wow. I mean, there's just a lot going on with your department, and I really appreciate that. The more we do in our county, the more we try to coordinate and put things out to our residents, the more work you have to do. And so I appreciate all of your coordinating with the research team, AMC, NACO, all of our partners, just appreciate all that work. I do have a couple of questions about your performance measures, and just maybe it's how we're documenting them, and this may be for all of the performance measures, but when we talk about I'll pick number 2, the social media engagement rate, or the one above it, the % increase in the digital. I'd like to know where we started. So that's the % increase. And I'm excited that you're doing impressions, not just hits. Are we really reaching the desired impact? And I appreciate that we're doing that. But when it would be interesting for me to see what increase do we have? I mean, what do we have now? So what's the increase on? Like, what's the percentage? And then maybe in parentheses, what is the increase? So how many people have a positive impression? I'm guessing this is a positive impression we want to make, or I'm reading the background information here too, to say the % increase in digital communications impressions. So that's effective hit, I'm guessing, is sort of my review of that. So what is our actual digital communication impression versus the increase?
Madam Chair, Commissioner McGuire, thank you for the question. As we get more sophisticated and talk about sort of how do the tallies compare to tallies that we've developed over time, that's what this represents. But to get to those numbers, we're going to go back down again on the page and click through to those metrics. So this shows us, so year by year, where have we grown? And the graphs that are up at this time are related to social media. That shows where did we start when we started to measure this and how have we grown. And as you can see, it's been steady growth on all of our channels on social media, and that will give you those numbers of followers or of impressions in the case of, or page views in the case of website, subscribers in the case of our email updates, users of our website, as well as page views of the website. If we could scroll up on that page just a little bit more. And then we have some of these multi-dimensional graphs that bring together tallies of different channels so that those who are interested in seeing what is the impact of users or page views on a particular channel, whether it be our library website, rcoreads.org, whether it be our tax and value lookup application, whether it be our Union Depot website or ramseycounty.us or our intranet site. All of those are broken out here and have that historical background on them. So what we've tried to do this year is get to that next level of dimensionality. So instead of tallying the individual channels as we did when we began this journey, then we rolled them up together to get a better sense of the overall impact. Now we're trying to get overall impact, put some goals to increase that number year by year. That's what that percentage increase represents on the performance measure page that we talked about, the first performance measure.
Okay, so thank you for that. So hard to get to what the actual is. I see we just want an increase. I'll think about that for a little while. So thank you for that. And then do we have a sense, or is any other county doing this? How are we in comparison to other, I know I expect we're leading on some of these things, but how are we doing in relation to what other counties are doing with their social media engagement rate? I'm just curious. Do we have a sense
Madam Chair, Commissioner
of
McGuire.
how we compare?
Thank you for the question. Yeah. We've done some work to look at some of the basic information that we're privy to with our peers. So we had done some reporting that I can provide to the group here maybe 4 or 6 months ago that looked at how are we doing versus our peer counties, versus the cities in Ramsey County, versus organizations like the Metropolitan Council. How do we stack up looking at our population and our number of followers and some basic information like that. So we do have those graphs available. They were point in time from some time ago, and the hypothesis going into that was, how are we holding up via our peer metro counties in terms of share of population that is using it's a very rough measure, of course. It's not one-to-one. It's not only Ramsey County residents and businesses and stakeholders and nonprofits and media outlets that follow us. It's a lot of people throughout the region. We have many, many different audiences on our social media platforms. But it gives us that general sense of how, if we're it's not quite this, but if we're half the population of Hennepin County, how do we stack up with our social media numbers versus them? So I can pull that reporting and provide that to the group to get you a better sense there. And I don't have it off the top of my mind, but I remember being pleased with the results, that there were no surprises, that we were lagging in any area, and then a lot of just sort of interesting things. Cities you would probably expect have higher numbers of followers because of things like is the snow emergency in effect? A lot of people find that information really valuable. So things like that can drive up a city's followers. But I will work with the team to distribute that following this meeting.
I appreciate that. I'm just sort of curious. I'm glad to hear that we're in the mix. I'm not surprised. That's great that we are. And I also want to give a shout out, of course, to the government relations team. They are a small but mighty group, as well as we have a lot of those in this county. They I know, lift way above their weight as far as what they're working on. And I just want to acknowledge that I know that they want to work on this, and I just support this wholeheartedly in just getting all of our information out to all of our legislators. So I know we're working as a legislative team, we're looking at ways that we can get our legislators to, hear about all the good work that we're doing in a really quick way, and really so that they can be advocates for us. So I just want to put that out there, that is something we're recognizing. And I'm glad to see that you are working with Extension Service, of course, that they're in this department now in the Historical Society, because there are so many ways that I think we can coordinate, and I'm happy to hear about Extension working with housing and all of the different intersections. I know that Commissioner Reinhardt and I serve on the Extension Committee, and there are so many intersections that we want to be seen connected. So I just want to encourage all of that work, and the same with the Historical Society. I know early on in my tenure at the county, and the pandemic has gotten in the way of a number of this, but just to put in historical, storybooks in all of our parks and, things like that, which I think there is all on the horizon, but just there's so many things that we can intersect with our historical society and all of our departments. So I'm happy to hear that your work, that's on the radar, that we can continue to make those connections with these sort of semi-external organizations. So a lot of work to be done. I do love the data portal, the open data portal. I think people, as they get more used to it, will get more feedback on how those numbers can be best used. And I know you're taking all that in and using that. So just want to say, I'm supportive of all the work you're trying to do, and we just want to keep moving forward on all the work there is yet to be done. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner McGuire.
Okay, as far as an overview, I think the one message that has come through here is not only are you doing great work, because again, transparency, accountability, providing resources, especially right now, because we can be offering all kinds of services and things, or have a gateway to business assistance, which we do. But if people don't know about it, they can't gain that information. And that is so critical to making sure that the basic needs of people and businesses are met, and what we can do to help with that in the situation that we're in right now. So thank you for that. And what I heard as far as coming back to us is both qualitative and quantitative usage statistics. And I know that that's something that you care very much about, because of the nimbleness of what you do within your area of making changes. If we're not providing what people need or want, I know that you have made changes pretty quickly in getting information out there. And that goes with the government relations folks as well. Again, people look to Ramsey County to say what is happening as far as bonding projects and all the other things that have an impact on their daily lives, and obviously on the taxes that are paid and how we use those. So we do have a great story. We have a lot of resources, and we are, I believe, through your leadership and this young team's leadership, that we've been able to really make a difference. And that's what we're about. I mean, public service is about making a difference in people's lives. And your job, John, is to tell that story and make sure, and for Ramsey County and for the board, and to meet the goals that we have. So happy birthday again. Hope you can enjoy in a better celebratory manner than just doing a public hearing, budget hearing. And so thank you very, very much. And I think I didn't have any other hands up. I assume Commissioner Carter was from before. So, okay, we will then move on, unless you have something else, John. I'll let you give you that opportunity first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Very nice. Thank you so much. And this is a great birthday gift. Thank you very much. Ability to represent our team is a gift, and I appreciate you bringing back. The point is to make a difference. That is exactly in our approach, in our hearts every day. So thank you for rounding back on that piece.
Thank you. Okay, next I will turn it over back to Karen Francois, Deputy County Manager, for some closing comments, and then I also have a couple of announcements after that. I can find them.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Before I close, I would just like to also go back for a minute to the property tax conversation and just remind you that we didn't have time the other day to talk about property tax collection. So we will be coming back on October 15th to you to finish up that conversation about property tax collections.
I think you said October 15th and it's September 15th. Correct?
No, I think it's actually October 13th is the Tuesday.
Okay.
It is,
Yeah,
all
it's
right.
not.
it's October
not-
5th,
It's not.
13th.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting my dates mixed up here, but I guess that kind of happens at this point in the game.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And it is October 13th, not 15th. I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Thank you.
So I just wanted to remind you of that. And then I also wanted to say happy birthday to John and also ask him a question. Is dimensionality actually a word?
I think he left. I think he left.
Birthday party.
I guess when you're the communications guru, you can make up words if you want. Anyway, that caught my ear. And also, commissioners, I want to thank you. I was watching earlier today when you were hearing all the great work that our colleagues in EGCI is doing, and I heard you talk about small and mighty in reference to CED. And then I've heard you talk about it today, and John talked about it with his team. Well, you know, IPR is the smallest service team, but I like to think of us as small and mighty as well. And I'm really, really proud of the work that this small, mighty, fierce team is doing. They all have big hearts and they care a great deal about the people that we serve. They care about each other. You know, we have a very strong, highly functioning team that we're intentional about. And they care about our colleagues across the county. I celebrate and thank each one of them. And I thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners, for all of your support. As my colleague DCM Berg said earlier, we couldn't do what we do without you. So thank you for your leadership. I value and respect each one of you. And I'm proud to serve the people of Ramsey County alongside you, alongside County Manager O'Connor and the rest of the employees in Ramsey County. Take the rest of the day off.
If only, right? All right. Well, I do have some comments. Alex, our CFO, would like to make some comments, but I would like to, just so I don't forget to do this, our next budget hearing is on, our budget meeting is on Tuesday, September 8th. We will not be having a county board meeting that day. Rather, we will have 2 half days again with budget hearings, meetings, I should say. And then the first public, and then we also have on Thursday, September 10th at 8:30 is another budget meeting. And then the first public hearing is at 10:30 on Thursday, the 10th. I want to give the phone number and the website or email address again for folks as we get closer to September 10th. The chief clerk can be reached at 651-266-8014. And the chief clerk, and you can email comments to chiefclerk@co.ramsey.mn.us. You can sign up at the meeting, and you can provide comments to become part of the public record, but you can also email requesting to speak to the board as well. You've heard a lot about the open data portal. I will continue to push for that as far as people going to it. It's an incredible tool that will give you a lot of detailed information, and also obviously reach out to any of us with questions or comments as we move forward. I will leave the last word then to CFO Alex Kutza.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I have to say, in my 16 years of budget work, this is the most fun I've ever had at budget hearings. Okay, just quick comment on
and
the.
we're in difficult times right now.
I know, but you have a way of making feel really good about the work we're doing as a county and the work we're doing for public service in our community. So I appreciate that. Just quick comment. It came up earlier during the during Rich's presentation on IS that the money, the $2 million that we removed is a pressure issue going into 22 and 23, and I want to make sure that that's noted. It's something I want to pay attention to. I also wanted to highlight in the project management office, their model and their ability to expand and contract has been really, really great during this time. Rich mentioned it. I wanted to highlight it, that is really working, being able to expand when we need more project management and contract when things like COVID happen and we can't have as many resources because we don't have as many projects. And the last thing I want to mention, because in this this strategic team, or this service team in particular, there are, a higher vacancy rate, and it was brought up during the assessor's presentation. And I want you to know that is something we're going to pay attention to. It is a higher vacancy rate. We're not doing any layoffs. We are going to watch that and monitor it and look at the longer term impact of holding more positions vacant, and we're going to have to be flexible when that doesn't work. So we'll continue to work with all the different service teams on that issue in particular. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, if there is nothing else from commissioners, I don't see any hands up. We are adjourned for today, and we will reconvene on Tuesday morning at 8:30. Thank you very much. Bye.
Take care.